Okay, we are all set, Mr. Chairman. I'm gonna mute myself.
Okay, and I'm going to give it a couple seconds, and I want to pop on the YouTube.
Okay.
Boom.
Better way to do that. All right. Um, go back here, here. I'll give it another couple seconds. All right, I can start them up. You ready, Joe?
Yeah, everything's ready. Go ahead.
All right.
Yes, yes.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to a regularly scheduled meeting of the Zoning Commission of the City of Danbury. July 22nd, 2025. Let the record show. We will begin with a roll call at 7:04. Commissioner Bennett,
Present.
Commissioner Botello,
Here.
Commissioner Cabrera,
Here.
Commissioner James. Commissioner James, here.
Here.
Commissioner Jowdy,
Great to be here.
great
Yes.
to have you. Commissioner Nazario.
Here.
Commissioner Nejame has not yet come. I'll put down absent.
Don't count him out though. He'll be coming.
Okay. Commissioner O'Neill,
Here.
Commissioner Harrison,
Here.
Commissioner Villacrest is absent. Commissioner Harrison, I'm going to seat you for the entire evening for Commissioner Nejame.
I'm here.
If Commissioner Nejame, oh, was that him?
Where is he? Where are you?
I'm here. I'm here.
Oh, he's
Oh,
calling.
that Zoom user,
he's a
that's
Zoom
you?
user.
I
Okay.
think so. I don't know. I had trouble getting on for some reason today.
You're
Yeah,
good. So,
Me too.
when I say Commissioner Nejame, say here, okay? Commissioner Nejame, here. Beautiful. Okay, Commissioner
Do
Harrison.
you have any
you
photo or
remain on
not yet?
deck.
Camera? Oh,
There
there
you
you
There
go.
he is. We got you.
That's great. Thank you. Glad to have you. The next regular meeting is scheduled for August 12th, 2025. If everyone could stand and if you have your flags, hold them up for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag
Flag
of the
of the
United States of America
and
and
to the republic
Republic
for
for which it
stands,
stands,
one
one
nation,
nation,
under
under
God,
God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
with
with
liberty
liberty
and
and
justice.
justice for
for
all.
all.
Great, thank you. Give me 1 second, and I want to get onto my YouTube here. Make sure that I got it. Still hasn't populated yet, Joe. Huh. Okay, we'll wait on that then. Commission members, everyone should have received their June 10th minutes. It was inside of the packet and it was made a public record. Is there any motion to accept the minutes of June 10th, commission members? Commission members, what's your pleasure? Commissioner Botello.
Yes,
make
I'd like to make a
accept
motion to accept the June 10th, 2025 minutes and put them into the record.
Thank you. There's
Second.
a is
I
there a
second.
Second by Commissioner James. Any discussion? Any additions, deletions, subtractions, modifications? Not seeing or hearing any. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those
Aye.
opposed? Legal notice for this evening. Notice is hereby given to the zoning commission. The city of Danbury will hold public hearings commencing at 7 p.m. on Tuesday, July 22nd, 2025, in a web-based meeting hosted on Zoom to consider the following matters. Number one, petition of Blazius Enterprises, Sawmill Road, A15004 for change of zone from IL40 and PND to RMF6. This hearing was rescheduled from the July 8th, 2025 meeting. Number two, petition of MSM 44 Old Ridgebury Road, LLC, 44 Old Ridgebury Road, C16006 for change of zone from RMF4 to RO. Copies of these applications are on file in the town clerks and planning and zoning offices for public inspection. Parties and interests and citizens shall have an opportunity to be heard at this time. The agenda will be posted on the city website and will include instructions on how to join the Zoom meeting or view the meeting live on YouTube. Theodore J. Haddad, Jr., Chairman, posted on the city website and town clerk's office on July 8th, 2025. Published in the News Times on July 11th, 2025, July 18th, 2025. Purchase Order 2025-503. Additionally, this agenda was filed in the town clerk's office on Thursday, July 17th, 2025 at 4:28 p.m. Regarding our Zoom rules, this meeting of the Danbury Zoning Commission is being held on Zoom as a virtual meeting. Even though this meeting is a virtual meeting, members of the public and interested parties continue to have the opportunity to participate in the meeting in a couple of different ways. You can participate via Zoom and see the audio and video, or you can call in by phone and participate via audio only. Please be aware that we may have to mute your microphone or telephone to avoid an echo or some other background noise. This is also being streamed live via YouTube. Instructions on how to participate in the meeting appear on the City of Danbury website, and all of the documents and materials that apply to the matters to be discussed during this meeting, including the agenda, are also available on the City of Danbury website. As always, if you have any questions, please contact the City of Danbury Planning and Zoning Department. As a reminder, the entire meeting will be posted on and can also be seen on the City of Danbury website. We will follow the posted agenda as per standard practice. If prior to the meeting any questions or comments on agenda items were submitted via email to Director El Bakri, these comments will be read during the appropriate portion of the meeting. Finally, please remember that technology glitches sometimes do occur. Please be patient if that happens.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman, while you were reading,
Yes.
Alexis joined us too. So Alexis is here too.
Oh, great. I saw Alexis pop in. For the
Okay.
record, Alexis was here for the legal notice, which makes her available should we need her. And let me move her box so I can get everybody together. And we do. Okay, Alexis, welcome. The first petition this evening is a petition from Blazius Enterprises, Sawmill Road, A15004 for a change of zone from aisle 40 and PND to RMF 6. Let me get the light stuff out of the way first. I will read the 838 Planning Commission
Did
recommendation.
you read the legal notice?
Yes.
I missed it. Okay,
Oh, yep, I got it.
sorry.
No problem.
Thank you.
July 18, 2025, Theodore J. Haddad, Jr., Chairman, Danbury Zoning Commission, from Arnold E. Finelli, Chairman, Danbury Planning Commission. 838 referral petition of Blazius Enterprises, Sawmill Road, A15004 for change of zone from aisle 40 and PND to RMF 6. At the web-based Zoom meeting held on July 16, 2025, the City of Danbury Planning Commission voted to give the above referenced petition a negative recommendation for the following reasons. The ongoing concern over the loss of precious industrial zone land, as there are still industrial uses, industrial condos, and outdoor storage looking for industrial zone land. The proposed residential use would put a much greater strain on municipal services like water, sewer, and fire, police, emergency, and medical services. Also, residential use will exacerbate the already troubled traffic situation on Mill Plain Road. There is no guarantee that there will be affordable units in the proposed residential development, and there are plenty of other areas in the city that could support the needed additional housing units, especially in the downtown, which allows for taller buildings. Lastly, this proposal does not comply with the Future Land Use Map, FLUM, and the Plan of Conservation Development, POCD, which designates this property as industrial land. Mr. Chioccio made a motion to give this a negative recommendation, which was seconded by Mrs. Hofstetter. The motion for a negative recommendation did not carry due to a tie vote. Mr. Chioccio and Mrs. Hofstetter voted in favor of the motion, and Mr. Sylvain and Chairman Finelli voted against the motion. Mr. Sylvain then made a motion to give this a positive recommendation, which was seconded by Mr. Chioccio. The motion resulted in a tie vote. Mr. Sylvain and Chairman Finelli voted in favor of the motion, and Mr. Chioccio and Mrs. Hofstetter voted against the motion. The second tie vote resulted in a negative recommendation for this petition. Regarding the 8.3b referral, dated Friday, July 18, 2025. Good morning. Thank you for submitting the attached referral. This is coming from Westcott, by the way. Regional staff agrees that this parcel in question will be well suited for residential use, and given the local opposition to currently zoned light industrial use, this supports the proposed zone change. I'm sorry. Regional staff agrees that the parcel in question would be well suited for residential use. Given the local opposition to currently zoned industrial uses, supports the proposed zone change. Best, Tucker. Okay. Now let me call on the director, Director Walid Al-Bakri, to go over his staff report and all of his presentation and comments this evening. Director?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, everyone.
Good
Happy
evening.
to be on here. So I will start by giving you a quick overview about the site, and then I will cover most of the details, but I'm not going to cover each part of it because I will leave room for discussion later on. With that, I would ask for your permission, Mr. Chairman, to share my slides here.
Yes,
I did
Director.
it.
Absolutely.
It's all set.
There you go.
Here we go. Thank you. So as I mentioned at the beginning, I will go over a very quick overview of the site. So the site we're talking about is this one highlighted in yellow. It's about 27 acres. We received an application from the owner to apply for rezoning from IL40, which means light industrial, and PND. If you look at the map here carefully, can you see the handle here or the hand? This small portion is part of PND, which means planned neighborhood, which I'm going to explain why this small piece is zoned so. And the application is to allow for RMF, which is multifamily. Very quickly, if you look at the slide here, you will see where the site is. One thing I would like to point out, and I don't know if you can see where the hand is, this portion, which is about 116 feet wide, is a gas transmission line. And if you look very closely, I don't know if you can see it, I'm trying to actually go over it or have the hand over it. Sawmill River is actually going along the east side of the property. You cannot see all of it, but you can see a section of it. What does this mean? It means a big portion of the site cannot be developed. And I have more slides to share with you. I have the survey here on the left-hand side. It gives you a better idea of what I'm talking about. This is a small piece of land that is zoned PND. And most of the site, as you see here, which is about 27 acres, is actually empty. There has not been interest for the site for a long time. And if you look closely here, you will see, and I'm going to go back over the slide. This is the site. Immediately to the south, there's a big development. We call it the Crown Point, which has about 14 buildings with a total of 466 apartment units. Also, more to the east, where I am actually trying to have the hand here, this whole site is called the reserve. It has 11 phases and approximately 8 units per acre all over. One point to actually mention, the whole area all around our site is zoned residential. And this happened since 2000, 2001. The whole area here was industrial. City decided over many years that it should all be residential. What we have, which is a situation here, this small piece of land, relatively speaking, 27 acres, most of it cannot be developed, is left alone as industrial. In our lingo, in the planning lingo, if we are doing something that is very different from anything around it, we call it spot zoning. So what we're trying to do is to do the opposite of spot zoning, is to make this piece of land compatible with the surrounding pieces of land. I talked about the reserve, and I would like to share this slide with you. I'm sure all of you are aware of what I'm talking about. We're talking about all this huge development. It has 11 phases, as you can see here. And the closest one to the site, which will be phase 6, it has about 335 units. The other one, which is phase 1, is actually the Crown Point. It has 466 units. Piece of land here that is part of the site I'm talking about, somehow it was zoned as part of the reserve. That's why it's PND. And just go back again, because this could be confusing. I'm talking about this piece of land. So again, I have a slide for you, but please remember, this is only for illustration purposes. This is what could be built on the site. We're talking about 5 buildings each will have between 40 and 45 units. As you can see, this is the east side, so that to give you a little bit of orientation. Any building on the site will have to be tucked away all the way to the west side, closer to New York State border, because where the hand is, we cannot develop it because it has wetland or it has a sawmill area. So usually when we have any application for zoning map amendment, what do we look at? We look at, sorry for that, something we call FLUM, which future land use map, which is included in our POCD. POCD is Plan of Conservation and Development. The site is the one I'm actually having the hand over. It's blue, which was meant for industrial. However, from looking at all the minutes from the POCD meeting, they didn't know what to do with it, and they were not sure what will happen in the future. So it was more like a cautious approach to leave it as it is. One thing to mention here, which is very important, FLUM, Future Land Use Map, is not meant to be lot by lot, and it's not binding. It's more like a general concept, so it's not like the zoning regulations. It's more to give you guidance. However, it doesn't deal with specific lots. It will be a mistake to consider that each lot is fixed and it cannot change. Another map I would like to share with you, which is the one on the right-hand side. It was done by Westcott, showing that the site we're talking about has infrastructure, meaning it's good for development. So one point.
Excuse me, Director. I'm sorry. Commissioner Jowdy, can you just mute your mic, please? Commissioner Jowdy, you're bleeding through. There you go. Thank you very much, Commissioner. Director, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, thank you. So when we are talking about any zoning amendment, we need to know what the existing zone says. And I'm gonna pause here for a minute or so. What you see on the slide is anything that the applicant, as we speak, can do on the site. If you look carefully, you will see a lot of it does not fit into what we have now on the site. So I'll give you a minute here so you can go over the permitted uses on the site. Are we good, or should I wait a little bit?
I'm good, Director, because I'm
Okay.
sure it's going to pop up a little later.
Sure, yeah, I can go back to it. One
Yes.
thing also I would like to talk about is that what we call land distribution. Yes, our residential component is the biggest one. However, please note that our multifamily is very limited. It's only 7%. Most of our residential which is 72% of our land, is single family. As far as IL40, which is very important component of our land use to keep, it's about 7.7% of all the land uses. And yes, it's important to keep it. However, it's important to keep it where it actually fits. The way the site developed, meaning what happened outside of it, meant that it's no longer a good fit. And as I mentioned before, most of the site cannot be developed, and only about 5 or 6 acres can be developed. So really, if we are talking about losing IL40, we're losing about 5 to 6 acres in an area that is all now residential. When we talk about any future land use map changes, we need to be aware of infrastructure. And for us, infrastructure means a lot. And I'm going to go over the slide to explain what infrastructure means for us. First, it means water and sewage. If you look at the map here to the left-hand side, you will see that the blue lots here, meaning there's water connection. And the site is the one where I have the hand here. It's very close to water connection. The same applies to sewage. You will see the site is covered by sewage connection. Just for your own info, discussions about the zoning amendment started back in August last year. Our engineering department was involved with the engineer from the applicant side, and we have the green light from our engineering department that all infrastructure needs can be met once there's an if the application is approved. When we are talking about infrastructure, it's not just water or sewage. It includes more. It includes police and fire as well. If you look at the site here to the left-hand side, you will see that we have a police substation very close by. This is the site. This is the police substation. You will see that we have fire headquarters closer, but please remember the city is actually acquiring land as we speak. Somewhere here, I cannot say exactly where, for a new fire headquarters. So that's going to be very, very convenient for any new development on the west side. Also, sidewalks. If you look at the slide here, the right-hand side, you will see the line here means there's existing sidewalk. If this application is approved as part of the new development, the sidewalk here that I'm actually having the handover will be extended all the way across all the boundary line for the development, which will add more safety for the site. Also, we are talking about amenities, which is part of the infrastructure. The site, as you could see before, mostly will be untouched. Only like 5 to 6 acres will be built. So it's going to have a lot of open space. In addition to that, very close by, there are many open spaces that are operated by the city as well. Also, somebody might ask, well, there might be need for more schools. Most of what we are talking about will be 2 bedrooms. So it's not anticipated that there will be a lot of kids going to school. However, as you know, the city has schools close by, and the new high school is being built as we speak, very close by. One important component when looking at any application for changing the map to residential is what we call here generated traffic. So I'm not going to go over all the details, but I'm going to compare between 2 different scenarios. Number one here, if we build 294 dwelling units, however, just for your own info, the example I showed you was only 225. So we're actually taking it to a higher number compared to having an office space of 160 square feet. The difference will be an increase of 14% if you build residential up to 294 dwelling units. However, the peak hours for residential, we will have less cars coming in and out. So the overall impact will be less compared to an office space. So in our zoning regulation, we have 9 different criteria that we need to look at when we talk about zoning amendment to multifamily. Number one is for multifamily. I believe I touched on this. It is suitable because all around it, it's multifamily. Is it compatible? Absolutely, because the density that is being asked for is even less than the one in the neighboring area. Does it actually include a need for the city in the future? Absolutely. The city is in need of housing. Impact for reducing the land use, the existing one, as I mentioned before, yes, in reality, there will be a 5 to 6 acres lost. However, first of all, the city, as you know, we had an amendment lately to allow some industrial uses in CA80. If you remember that you looked at and you approved, which actually would allow for more usage for industrial space. Also, the city is working on a project as we speak to designate areas in the future for light industrial, where we have infrastructure and where it fits into the existing uses. Also, there are other criteria about density. Yes, the density, as I mentioned, will be similar or less than the existing one. Accessibility, as we know, Sawmill is the way to get in and out, and I showed you that the traffic summary showing that there wouldn't be much change. Utilities are available, as I mentioned before. What about topography? There are areas that will have slopes. However, these ones most likely are not going to be built on. So in reality, we are talking about 5 to 6 acres. Environmental issues, yes, there are areas that could be considered wetland, and that's why it's better to have residential in a closer to wetland compared to industrial uses. So, to summarize, the application meets all the requirements or the criteria for zoning amendment in our zoning regulation. Because of that, and because of the outcome of the application, if it's approved, will be context sensitive because it will actually allow for multifamily in an area that is already multifamily. And also it can allow for affordable housing if the applicant chooses to, in the future, apply for a density bonus. Because of that, planning would opinion that the application meets all the requirements and it will be a good addition to the city land uses. With that, I come to the end of the overview. Happy to answer any question.
Thank you. Commission members, Director, can you take down the
Sorry
share
for
so I
that.
can see hands if there are any?
I always forget, you know.
That's okay. All
I'm
right,
gonna-
I got everybody here. Thank you. Commission members, are there any questions at this time of the director? Commission members, anything of the director? Commissioner Nejam, hand? Oh, almost. Not yet, Commissioner Nejam.
How's that?
Yes, go ahead, Commissioner Nejam. Question.
Thank you. Thank you, Teddy. Waleed, I'm a big advocate for light industrial. I think there's a tremendous need for contractors, in particular, electricians, plumbers, pool guys, you name it. And my first thought of this zone change was negative, simply because of that. However, based on what you're saying, you're going to be working on, and I understand we already have some relief in our current zoning. Can you kind of elaborate that on a little bit more so it's clear to everybody?
Yes, Director.
Thank you, and to you, Mr. Chairman. So yes, I will actually clarify what I'm talking about. What I mentioned is we have two steps we're working on. Number one step, we already did. I don't know if you guys would recall, we have an application that was initiated by the city, meaning by planning, about, I would say, time flies, about 12 weeks ago or so, to allow for some certain uses that are light industrial to be done in CA 80 zone. That allows for opening up potential for some light industrial in our existing CA 80. That's number one, and it was done. Number two, which is a project economic development and planning are working on as we speak. We are working along with our engineering department to identify future land that we can work along with the property owners to rezone from whatever it is to IL 40. What we're talking about is not huge pieces of land. We are targeting more the smaller size that could be used by smaller contractors, not the big companies, which would allow us, hopefully, when we reach out to different contractors from inside or outside the city, to offer them pieces of land that are already zoned IL 40 and are not huge, so it will be affordable for them to do business in town. Back to you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. So,
Thank you, Waleed.
Commissioner Nejam and the rest of the commission, if you recall, the CA 80 zone is that whole corridor, Mill Plain Road, and I think it includes a couple little side streets, Prindle Lane, and a couple other areas like that. That CA 80 zone had existed, and it was several weeks back, a couple months back, this commission, through the direction of the city submitted the petition, not any particular developer. The city submitted a petition to allow some light industrial uses to that CA 80 zone. So in fact, before tonight, we had increased some light industrial land in effect already prior to in Danbury not counting what's coming down the pike possibly that they're working on right now, because you can never count on anything in the future. But behind us about a couple months, we already did increase some light industrial uses in a large corridor. Commissioner Nejam, anything else?
No, that's it. Thank you, Waleed, Teddy, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Nejam. Thank you, Director. Commission members, anything of Director Waleed at this time? Commission members. Okay, I think what we're going to do now is we're going to go on to the presentation. I'm sorry, Commissioner Bennett. I do see some hands. Commissioner
Yeah, there
Bennett.
you go. Thank you, Commissioner.
Sure.
I have a couple of questions. One is this plan to build 5 separate buildings, one building? What is the plan? Waleed?
Actually, I'll have the director address that. Now, that one piece that he showed, that map that he showed that had buildings on it, is conceptual only. We don't get involved in that design or that approval or now. We're just taking a look at the land and we're going to decide. As best as I can guess, and I'll let the director address it, is maybe he has some inside information or maybe even the applicant will tell us, but it would look like any other building, any other apartment structure, maybe it even joins at Crown Point next to it, which would be a building of 25 units or so, 25, 30, 40 units, something like that, and a few buildings on site that I think is direct all the way to the back of the property line, because there's some vegetation and some woods in the front of it that would be between the road and these units. But we can't really look at any specific drawings or building layouts. Director? You're good.
I'm good. Okay. Thanks, Mr. Chairman. You know what? You addressed it better than I could do, but I would add a little bit. So the reason why I wanted to share it with you is not a commitment from the applicant, because if this is approved, there will be site plan application. At that stage, we know all the details.
Okay.
This was only for illustration to show that, yes, the site, as I mentioned before, it's going to stay in a way because you cannot build on most of it, but to show that some area of it is buildable. And if it is to be buildable, that's basically the maximum we can get out of it.
So, thank you, Director. So, Commissioner Bennett, to go one leg further off of what your question was, you have a piece of land and they deduct the easement, they deduct all non-buildable portions of it. They subtract it from the total amount of acreages, and what they're left with is what density is based upon. So that was just a quick conceptual drawing that I'm sure the presenter tonight, Attorney Beecher, will go over with us, and you can address any other questions about that to him as well.
Mr.
Okay.
Chairman, since we're talking about it, the one point I actually would like to mention.
Sure.
I mentioned that the discussion started last year, August, so it's not new. And I have to, since we're here talking about it, I have to say that the applicant have been really willing to work with us. By us, I mean the city as a whole. From our point of view as a city, we are fixing the situations that might be problematic later on. I will tell you what I'm talking about. Assume that the zoning amendment is not approved, and a couple of weeks from now, a year from now, somebody buys the land and they decide to build any of the uses you have seen on the slide that are permitted. First of all, it's not compatible with the existing environment we have. I have to admit, over the years, the city allowed it to transition into residential area. Second, because the site has a lot of wetland and issues, we would, from our environmental lens, we don't want to see any industrial use close to sensitive land. So for us, as a city, from a planning point of view, what we are doing is a win-win situation. Is that the applicant will be able to use it, something that fits into the existing neighborhoods, and the city will have an ease that this will be compatible. It wouldn't cause any issues later on. Thank you, and back to you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. So, Commissioner Bennett, before I go on to Commissioner Cabrera, if you could just put your mic on mute, please. So, Commission members, so the director was talking about right now, this very moment, the present owner, or they can sell it. They can do up to, there's 27 uses as of right that they can do on that property that are industrial. There's 20 uses under special exception, and there's 2 uses for a brewery or a distillery that can go on that site without even having to look for approvals from the zoning commission. I guess what it'll come down to is if this commission, whether they like residential or they don't like residential, or whether they like industrial or they don't like industrial, is to choose tonight what you think is best for the neighborhood. And take it from there. Commissioner Cabrera.
Thank you so much. I do have several questions as well. I
Sure.
did read in the report that it is a flood zone. So when there's a flood there, who is responsible and how often do floods happen in that area? Do we know? And if we have used this location and what have been the uses, or why do we want to change the code? And is it because it's been vacant? Do they not have options? And just that for now.
Director, did you want to talk about any of those? I could deal. What do you want? Director, why don't you?
I can touch on this one. Yes, the report talks about most of the land here in Danbury is in some way or other can be flooded. However, it was mentioned it's really low flooding possibility. It's not an area that actually in the flood zone or any of that. So it's not a high risk flood, it's a very low flood possibility, which a lot of areas in Danbury are already in that category. The other one, which is about changing the code and be it that they cannot use it. No, the applicant, again, they can speak to that, but from our point of view, which is a city, if it is to be residential, it will fit more into what the city's vision for the future is. I'm not talking about the applicant. The applicant might have their own rationale, which they can explain, but from our side, which is the city side, having multifamily in that area is a way better use compared to industrial use. I hope I answered your question.
Commissioner Cabrera, you all set? So, commission members, what you're getting is you're only getting the opinion of the city's planning director here. And we're going to hear a presentation from the applicant very shortly, Dick, and can also address all of your questions, and a lot of stuff will come to bear shortly. Is there anything else and by the way, the director will also speak again if you have any other questions. But for now, are there any more questions of the director, commission members? Any other questions? Any other questions? Director, we'll get back to you shortly. Anyone wishing to speak in favor of this petition? Attorney Beecher.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, everyone.
Good
For the
evening.
record, my name's Tom Beecher. I'm an attorney with the Collins Hannafin Law Firm. I represent Blasius Enterprises, which is both the owner and the applicant in this particular proposed zone change. I'm very happy to bat second tonight behind that fine report from the planning director. With me tonight for our presentation are Neil O'Leary, who represents ownership, Eric Lindquist, who's the project engineer from Ty and Bond, and he can go through some of the questions that just came up, including the one about which particular flood zone rating this property has. And lastly, Tom Wamser, who is our professional traffic engineer, also from Ty and Bond. We filed this application for a zone change to rezone the Aisle 40 property here, and also the small portion, which is currently PND as well, to the RMF6 zone. Because the zone is different on the other side of the road, the actual zone change line goes down the middle of the road, which is standard procedure for these types of applications. So when you look at the zone change map, it says 28.677 acres are in the zone change, but our property is just 27 acres. In other words, the stretch of road, which is a pretty long stretch of road in front of this property, accounts for the other 1.7 approximately acres. This property is located on Sawmill Road, which is classified by the city as an arterial road. The property is located adjacent to exit 1, both the on and off ramps for exit 1 to I-84. It's also near Route 6, which is also classified as an arterial road in the city. This location is actually ideal for access to and varied traffic disbursement to and from a variety of roadways, including these three major roadways. I point out that the property is over a mile away from the intersection of Milestone Road and Mill Plain Road, where the business area of Mill Plain Road actually begins. If you drive that stretch from Sawmill towards Milestone Road, there's not a lot along either side of the road in that location. There has not been any significant interest in developing this property for industrial uses. It's also clear that certain IL-40 uses proposed for Sawmill Road have not been welcome in recent years. And I'll talk more about that later. For many reasons, this property is significantly better suited for multifamily development than for industrial uses. The residential use of this property is consistent and in harmony with this neighborhood. The property is almost completely surrounded by the PND residential zone. The homes at Rivington in the reserve are located well upslope and across the street to the east. As Waleed mentioned, the Crown Point residential apartment development abuts this property on the south side, and that's also located in the PND residential zone. The Turner Hill development is located in the RMF 6 zone just south of the Crown Point property. To the north along I-84 and Mill Plain Road is property at zone CA80. This property that you're looking at tonight does not abut any other IL-40 property. My client also owns the abutting land on the New York side of this property, and that consists of 9.7 acres. That land is also zoned residential by the town of Southeast. It is a single-family residential zone, which requires a minimum lot size of almost 4 acres for development of single-family homes. So this 27-acre parcel is almost completely surrounded by residentially zoned property. Abutting that New York parcel is property owned by Algonquin Gas. And as you're well aware, there's a large gas line and right-of-way that comes out of New York, cuts through this particular property, across the street, and through the reserve and eastward. My clients have no plans to develop the New York parcel, and they have no plans to have any connection road from anything that happens on the New York side through this parcel, having traffic then end up coming from New York side into Danbury. The city wouldn't allow that anyway, so it's just a non-issue. Prior to filing this application, we had multiple meetings with the planning director, the director of public works, and the economic and community development advisor, as well as other city officials. All of them have been supportive and instrumental in their guidance as this plan was developed. My clients also hosted a meeting in a conference room at the Hotel Zero for our team, which included Neil O'Leary and Eric Lindquist, to show leaders of Rivington and the other HOAs what our proposed plan was. And Waleed and Farley Santos were kind enough to attend that meeting as well. With respect to the proposed RMF 6 use, our discussions with the city have included the city's significant need for additional units of affordable housing. My client is committed to using the incentive housing option permitted by the RMF 6 zone designation. In addition, the apartments would be rental units. The apartments would be only 1 and 2 bedroom apartments. There would be no studios or 3-bedroom apartments. Now, I know this is just a zone change application, and so you understand that our representation is not formally binding because you're not allowed to condition the zone change on that. But I do want you to know that in all the meetings we've had with city officials, my clients have listened to the city officials, and they're very much committed to this plan. A maximum of 196 units would be permitted on this property without using the incentive housing option, or IHO. And that's 1 unit per 6,000 square feet of land. After listening to city officials, we've purposefully not applied for the higher density RMF4, which would conventionally allow 1 unit per 4,000 square feet of land. If the incentive housing option is approved by the Planning Commission, then the maximum number of units would be 294 units. That's not going to happen, but that's the maximum allowed just by formula. Under the IHO, a minimum of 49 apartments must be statutory affordable housing units if we went to that 294. The incentive housing regulation requires that a minimum of 50% of the units above and beyond the conventional number of units that are allowed must be statutory affordable housing units. Our analysis, however, is that the gross number of units will be well below the maximum allowed by formula due to the topography and the wetlands and other site considerations. The planning director has already mentioned that tonight and also mentioned it in his report, and he agrees with us and we agree with him. Our project engineer, Eric Lindquist from Ty and Bond, reviewed the site characteristics and the zoning regulations and developed a concept site plan, which is for 225 apartments. The proposed project, in answer to the previous question from a commissioner, would have 5 buildings with 45 apartments in each of the 5 buildings. And there'd be a swimming pool and a clubhouse as well for the property. Mr. Chairman, through you, this would be a good time perhaps to let Eric Lindquist briefly show the concept plan one more time and
Sure. Yeah, absolutely, Attorney Beecher. Mr. Lindquist, there you go. Introduce yourself, and you have as long as you'd like.
Well, hopefully I won't take too long. Good evening. For the record, my name is Eric Lindquist. I'm a senior associate and senior project manager at Ty and Bond and a licensed engineer in the state of Connecticut. I guess what I'll start off doing is addressing the question related to the ferment. So if I could share my screen right now, I'll kind of touch on that to start off with. So as you can see right here, this might not look like much. It is the ferment for FEMA of the area in question. And there doesn't seem to be much on here because this is a Zone X, which is an area of minimal flood hazard. If I go zoom out and show you up here, you can kind of see the areas that actually have different zones. There's a little bit upgrade or south of us, up here to the north and over here. So this, even though this is called the Sawmill River, it's not a significant river. It's if anyone's seen it, it's more of a brook. But that currently there's no significant flood hazard through here. It's an area of minimal concern. So I hope that addresses that concern. Moving forward, as noted, we did develop this plan, and this, as has been noted several times, is a conceptual plan intended to kind of just show the commission what we're looking to do out here to satisfy the zoning requirements, as well as to meet a density for the project that is agreeable for both zoning and for the ownership. So we came up with this plan, which, based on a lot of feedback we've gotten from the city, we feel works fairly well with this area. And the intent is really to harmonize with the rest of the reserve, which you see out there, both south of the site at Crown Point, as well as across the street at the Hills, and that's being built elsewhere within the reserve community. And it's really to maintain that neighborhood characteristic, maintain the wooded areas as best as we can. And this layout really accomplishes that well, I believe. There's been other options out here of crossing in and providing 2 accesses across the river. We really didn't want to do that. We wanted to minimize the number of crossings of the river for various reasons. Obviously, to minimize impacts to the wetlands. They're a sensitive area. We want to be cognizant of that. So this crossing would be very similar to the crossing at Crown Point, if anyone's familiar with that. There is a wetland crossing. I can bring up a map of that area, actually. So this is the Crown Point area to the south, and this is the Sawmill River. So there is an existing crossing there. This would be kind of similar to this one. And our development would be very similar to the 1B portion or the rear portion of Crown Point, which is a network of roadways that connect the various buildings and has parking there. So it's very similar kind of layout and scenario as this. So as I go back to our plan, we have that crossing and we chose an area that would have the least amount. If I zoom in here, you can see this is one of the narrower portions of wetlands and Sawmill River. So we felt this was a good area to cross for several reasons. Number one, to minimize the amount of disturbance within the wetlands and the river, as well as to provide good sight lines for the roadway, to provide good separation from the reserve main entrance for Reserve Road. So there's a good amount of distance between that, great sight lines. And we just felt this was the best crossing for us. So the intent is to cross over, obviously, and come into the site and slope up the hill. I could show this better on the contour map, but I figured I'd do it on the clean version first. So this would be picking up grade as it goes up the hill, up, 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 up. And the thing I really like about this layout is this whole area through here and all through here where the wetlands are would remain wooded and provide a very, very nice buffer. So these aren't right up on you. They're not highly visible. They're set back into the woods, well screened. And the other thing I'd like to point out is these buildings are currently envisioned and obviously haven't been designed yet, but the current envision for them is to have parking underneath with 3 levels of residential above. In this case, buildings 1 and 4 would be tucked into the hillside, so the back of the garage would be retaining, whereas on the other side, the retaining wall would be on the north side, so the roadway would be retained up so that it would step down, really to kind of terrace with the grade as we go across the parking area here. So the roadway would be sloping up. You'd be seeing the parking at grade here, and you'd be seeing the first floor elevation at grade on the other side. So to really kind of terrace it, minimize the amount of earthwork, and really satisfy what I was talking about before to minimize our impact on the environment and clearing. Obviously, the more grade changes you have and the more earthwork you have to do, the more clearing you have to do. So we really want to limit that and be cognizant of that since we're adjacent to the wetlands. And you can see the wetland, the regulated area line that goes through here. So this would trigger a review by inland wetlands. So they would get their hands on it. They'd be able to review and provide feedback on it as well as zoning. But that's really the intent here with the layout, is to provide the required parking. In terms of circulation, right now, as our best guess at it right now, we provided a cul-de-sac at the end here with this flag lot, almost, it's not flag lot, but this little like protrusion out here that's kind of like a flag. This isn't going to be used for any development, so we took advantage of that for circulation purposes to get a fire truck or a delivery truck to be able to turn around and come back out, since we're only doing that one crossing. If we provided a loop, we could have avoided that, but once again, I want to limit the amount of crossings and disturbance within the wetlands and the sensitive areas. So we felt that was a really good solution to provide all of that. And this won't be an issue with Algonquin, since we'd likely be filling, or we would be filling over here. We couldn't cut. And we're familiar with working with them. I've worked on many of the phases out at the reserve, so I'm familiar with their standards and what they want to see for that kind of thing. Another thing we provided here is a clubhouse and a pool house at the entrance as a nice amenity. That would be closer to the roadway and really kind of set an entrance for the development and kind of set the residential tone as you kind of come into the facility. In addition to that, I wanted to touch on water and sewer. So here's the contour map. So you can see what I was talking about. Contours are reflecting grades as they incrementally go up the hill. So you can see it climbs up the hill. So this would be set back from the road and up, screened heavily by this wetland area. As you saw from the aerial, it's heavily wooded through this area. We'd be servicing the site by water and sewer, as was noted in Waleed's presentation. That would require an extension for both services to connect. Water currently goes, and this is, as you can see, is Reserve Road that comes up. The hills is up in this area. Right now, the development that's going on for Toll Brothers is over here, the other one. So this is Reserve Road coming in at the intersection of Sawmill Road, and that's where the water kind of ends right now. It continues to the south down Sawmill and continues up Reserve Road. So we'd be extending from that point down to our site and servicing the site up through here. And we'd obviously get that reviewed with the City of Danbury Water Department and make sure that meets all their standards, and they're on board with our approach. In terms of sewer, I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with where the sewer main goes, but it currently comes from Crown Point, comes through Reserve Road, and then starts to go across land through an easement and wraps around the entire reserve development. And all the reserve development kind of goes down gradient to it as it goes around the entire site. There's an access road that kind of traverses it as well as it goes around. So we currently, just for kind of a worst case scenario, I guess you can call it, it's not necessarily worst case, but showing a force main, because obviously these units are up high on the hill. They'd have to come down and go under, over the bridge where the river is, and then kind of, we'd have to go back upgrade to get to the sewer on the other side of the road. So we're proposing a force main, a pump station. We show this location. It might tweak when we get into the design where it makes most sense. But we're showing a pump station here for the residential that would then become a force main. And we show, like I said, worst case scenario, going down the street again and tying into an existing manhole here. I chose this manhole simply because it's closest to the roadway, which would involve the least amount of kind of concern going on to abutting property, since this is on, it's not on the city property. So we'd have to deal with that issue, but it's just off the right of way for the roadway. Ideally, I think the best place to cross over might be in this area where there's a manhole here, but like I said, it just goes further into this site. So we can hash out those types of details later and finalize this approach as we continue. But that was our best go at it, and we feel this is a comprehensive approach that will really meet the needs of the site and the needs of the city. So with that, I can pass it back to Tom.
Oh, can we field some questions, Mr. Lindquist?
Absolutely.
Thank you, by the way, for the presentation. Couple quick questions. Can you confirm for me, to the public, to the taxpayers, and to this commission, that those water sewer connections and off-site improvements are paid for by the developer and not the taxpayer?
Correct.
Right.
Actually, one other question: the road elevation and the building 1 elevation. Do you know that off the top of your head?
I could guesstimate it by
Yeah,
zooming
a
in.
guess is real good.
The roadway down at that size about at 577, and building 1 is going to be up in the 630 range.
Okay, so as far as any washouts or any severe 100-year flood, these buildings are going to be all up above that,
Way above it, yes.
way above. And the other thing is that proposed, I don't have the picture up here now. You had a stormwater pond there. That's basically a dry pond in case of emergency.
No, what that is, and I can go into more detail on this if you'd like, but obviously when you have a wooded site, you have to retain stormwater runoff in order to mitigate peak flows and volumes from the site. So that's a way of addressing the impacts from adding pavement out in the site. We also need to address water quality. This is to go further on what Waleed said earlier about being in a sensitive area. This is also in the Lake Kenosha watershed, so there is various requirements for that as well. So this pond would address those concerns, provide water quality, and allow us to discharge a flow back to the Sawmill River that's consistent with what's going to it now.
Right, but in theory, that can be dry at times too. It's not gonna.
I think this would be.
Only
I
case-
think this would be a likely. We'd have to do perk tests and things out there, which we haven't done yet. As a worst case, I would assume it's a wet pond, which is
Oh, okay.
just something that has a standing water elevation of like 4 feet, 4.5 feet. And then when the
Okay.
storms come in, it fills up and there's another 6, 7 feet or whatever of storage that accommodates the storm event.
Beautiful. Thank you. I'm good on questions. Commission members, any questions of Mr. Lindquist at this time? Commission members? I don't see any hands. If anybody wants to shout, commission members? Thank you, Mr. Lindquist. Attorney
Yeah.
Beecher.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So there's many reasons why this proposed zone change makes sense for this property and for the city of Danbury, and Waleed touched on a number of them. As he pointed out, this proposal is consistent with both the Plan of Conservation and Development and the City of Danbury Affordable Housing Plan. A tremendous amount of work went into the preparation and finalization of that housing plan. And it's an important guidance document, not only for this commission, but for the Planning Commission and the city as well. The housing plan addresses and promotes the need for both housing affordability and more statutory deed restricted affordable housing units. The housing plan also makes it very clear that Danbury has a shortage of rental apartments in the city. The POCD incorporated the housing plan into the POCD by reference. Another goal of the housing plan is to expand the diversity of housing options in the city of Danbury, which would obviously include encouraging and expanding the availability of rental apartments. Both the POCD at page 73 and the housing plan at page 15 report that multifamily zoned properties comprise only 7% of land uses in Danbury. The planning director's pie chart entitled Share of Land Area Diagram that you just saw also shows that only 7% of Danbury's land area is zoned multifamily. And according to that same pie chart, 11% of Danbury's land is zoned industrial. Now that 11% includes the IG-80. You saw one of his graphics that said the IL-40 is 7%. So if you're looking at a balance between maintaining and offering both multifamily zone property and industrial zone property, and with the understanding that both types of property, type of zone property, are important to the city, well, industrial zone property is well ahead by 4%. So rezoning this relatively small piece of property is not going to create any imbalance. Danbury's most recent state approved statistics show that affordable housing units are just over 10% of the housing stock. Therefore, additional affordable housing units are critically important to the city of Danbury to stay over this 10% threshold. As you all know, it's extremely important to keep that threshold, as Waleed, Jen, and Ali can all tell you. The housing plan highlights this need to maintain and stay above that threshold. The housing plan discusses not only the lack of statutory affordable housing apartments for rent, but notes in the gap analysis that there is also a shortage of rental units for those people at 100% or more of AMI, which is Danbury's area median income. There is therefore a clear need not only for statutory affordable housing units, but also for rental units generally. The housing plan further states that rising rents are a significant concern and suggests that one answer is in the, quote, development of additional rental housing affordable to upper income households, which may free up rental units that are affordable to moderate income households and could soften the market and stabilize costs for units in that affordability range. According to the housing plan, Danbury needs an additional 1,936 apartments in order to meet the current and projected rental apartment needs in the city for people at 100% of AMI. As of the date of the housing plan, area median income for Danbury was $104,400. I'm sure it's higher now, but that's the point. There's a significant need for housing for people with this type of income. As the chairman of the Planning Commission pointed out just last week, this gap analysis shows that the folks in the middle income range, when it comes to housing options, are getting squeezed. His words, not mine. There's also a significant gap in what is currently available versus what's needed in the terms of statutory affordable housing. The housing plan states on page 3, quote, there should be no place off limits to affordable housing, close quote. The plan also states that 60% of the people surveyed in preparation of that housing plan stated that there's not enough housing to meet the needs of the people of Danbury. 60%. This proposed zone change would lead to a project that will assist in achieving these city goals. This proposed zone change is consistent with the existing land use in this area of the city. And according to the housing plan, it's already an area of townhouses, multifamily properties, and apartments in a cluster at the western edge of the city. This 27-acre property is as far west as you can get in the city of Danbury. The housing plan additionally recommends that, quote, higher density affordable housing would best be accommodated in proximity to similar land uses, which are found in proximity to major corridors such as I-84. As we said, the on and off ramps to exit 1 of I-84 are literally just down the street from this property. So again, these are all good reasons why this property in the middle of a residential area is better suited for an apartment use than industrial uses. This proposed zone change is also consistent with the plan of conservation and development for many of these same reasons. The project will provide much needed additional rental housing in the city. The project will add much needed statutory affordable housing units in the city. And it's consistent with the goal of flexibility to meet current and future housing needs of the city. The proposed map change may be inconsistent with the FLUME, the land use map, as has been referenced, designation in the POCD, but it is consistent with many policies and recommendations in both the housing plan and the POCD. As the director pointed out, the FLUME is meant to be a guidance tool. It's not carved in stone for 10 years until the next POCD. And the planning director stated that the designation as industrial on the FLUME reflected caution rather than policy intent. In the past, this commission has granted zone changes that were consistent with the POCD, but not the FLUME map. For instance, change of zone from IL40 to PND for the 99 acres of the Summit property was contrary to the FLUME map, but was consistent with the POCD and had the support of the then planning director. Another example is a zone change for 92 South Street to RMF4, which was inconsistent with the FLUME, but consistent with principles in the POCD and had the support of the then planning director. As you know, the zoning commission is required to consider applicable general and specific zone change criteria in section 10I3, and Waleed went through those. I'm going to touch on them as well. There's some important points to add. This land's vacant, has treed areas, and Eric just pointed out to you how those can be preserved along the road, and the Sawmill River runs along the road as well. It's not only suitable for the proposed multifamily use in the proposed zone, as evidenced by what I presented in my letter, what we presented tonight, and what Waleed has presented to you, but for those very same reasons, it's not suitable for industrial uses. This particular property is an IL40 island unto itself, surrounded by residential zoned properties. Large office buildings are struggling and have high vacancies. This is a fact in the city of Danbury, and don't take my word for it. Ask the planning director, ask the city tax assessor, ask the owners of Lee Farm Corporate Park, ask the owner of the Summit, ask the owner of 100 Mill Plain. No one's going to spend millions of dollars to build an empty office building on this site. Compatibility of the RMF6 use with the surrounding area. As I said, multifamily use is consistent with the residential and multifamily uses that surround this property. Present and future needs of the city for additional lands to be rezoned as proposed. The petition to rezone seeks to increase property zoned RMF6, a zone which allows the IHO to increase the inventory of deed restricted statutory affordable housing. As I said, this proposed zone change helps to achieve those goals set forth in both the housing plan and the POCD. Now, the impact that may be caused by reducing the amount of land in the city zoned IL40. This is what we're going to hear about. The goals of achieving additional rental apartments and more affordable housing, and of locating such multifamily housing adjacent to a major highway or arterial streets, in my opinion, as expressed in the housing plan and the POCD, outweigh this incremental loss of IL40 zone property. In his report, Waleed said, quote, during the POC drafting process, the consultant, staff, and participating stakeholders discussed whether to shift this designation, meaning shift the zone of this property to something residential, due to the area's increasing residential character. Ultimately, the designation was retained in the absence of a concrete redevelopment proposal for this property. There wasn't any die-hard decision by the POCD committee to say, let's preserve this property as IL40. Danbury desperately needs it. It was just a decision because there was no input, probably no input sought, as to what designation might be appropriate and whether the owner would go along with it. But they strongly question whether this property should remain IL40. There are also 5 specific zone change criteria to be considered as well. It's a large vacant 27-acre parcel despite slopes and wetlands. The site is still very appropriate, as Eric pointed out, and as the planning director did as well, for residential apartment development as opposed to industrial uses. For these 5 criteria, I would refer you to Walid's report, and I just want to add some points. Density, compatibility, and transition. The proposed zone allows residential densities consistent with the nearby neighborhood. Properties to the east and south are zoned PND and have comparable density, while those further south are already zoned RMF6. The likely density permitted by the proposed zone here is compatible with surrounding residential densities. At 225 units, the density here would be just over 8 apartments per acre. The reserve is also approximately 8 units per acre. There are nearly 2,200 housing units approved for the reserve, 2,200. Crown Point is 466 apartments in 14 buildings on 80 acres, which equals almost 6 apartments per acre. So our density proposed is consistent with the surrounding neighborhoods. Accessibility and traffic impact. This property is located on Sawmill Road, which I said is an arterial roadway. The traffic study concluded that this proposed project will not have any substantial impact upon traffic as compared to an IL-40 use as an office. And at this point, through you, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to introduce Tom Wanzer, our traffic expert, who can summarize his report as well.
Thank you very much. Mr. Wanzer.
Thanks, Tom. So for the record, my name is Tom Wamser. I'm a professional engineer, a professional traffic operations engineer, and a road safety professional level 2 infrastructure. I'm a project engineer at Ty & Bond, and I'll present some traffic findings for this project. Just share my screen to start.
Yep, you're good.
Thanks. So we first did a traffic assessment of some of the conditions on Sawmill Road. So we looked at some historic DOT traffic data collected on the road, and average daily traffic was 6,500 vehicles per day. We also looked at speed data there, and operating speeds on the roadway and along the frontage of the site were between 47 and 49 miles per hour. Finally, we did an assessment of the crash history along the site frontage for the 3 years leading up to this submission, and there were no crashes to report in that time. The main thing that we looked at during our assessment was vehicle trip generation. So we looked at 2 scenarios, one being the residential use proposed, and the other as a point of comparison would be the allowable office space under the current zone. So I just want to walk through what this table is set up to show. So we look at 4 different individual peak times, weekday daily, so it's a typical weekday for the total 24-hour period, the weekday morning peak hour, so the morning rush, the weekday afternoon peak hour, the afternoon rush, and then a Saturday midday peak hour. So first up at the top, we have the proposed housing being 294 dwelling units, which are possible to build, but again, 225 are proposed. And you can see the numbers shown in this table here as to what that would generate for the total and then the 3 peak periods. We then assessed in 160,000 square foot office space, and that was based off of the footprints of the buildings from one of the concepts that was generated. We wanted to assume something that was feasible for the site. So it's possible something larger could be developed, but we wanted to be conservative in our analysis and assess something that we felt was reasonable without being too overreaching. And then those numbers are shown here as well. And then finally at the bottom, we have the net vehicular trips, which is just the difference of the proposed use being residential minus the potential use of the office use under the current zone. So these are the numbers here that summarize what the traffic impact would be associated with the zone change and developing the site. As shown during the morning and the afternoon peaks, there's a net negative reduction in vehicle trips generated. There is a difference in distribution based on whether traffic is entering or exiting the site. That's typical because office space and residential space are usually opposite in that regard, where people are going to work in the morning and returning in the afternoon, typically. Then when we look at the weekday total, which includes the off-peak times, those are slightly higher for residential. And then similarly, Saturday as well, same thing, not as much office use on Saturdays, but typically the weekday morning and the weekday afternoon peak periods are the most critical for roadways. That's when traffic volumes are at their highest, and we see a total net negative for that situation. That concludes the traffic findings, and I can pass it back to Tom.
Thank you. Let's see if we have any questions for you first. Commission members, any questions of Mr. Wormser? Commission members? Thank you very much. Attorney Beecher.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Of course, as opposed to raw land, which is this property is right now, with zero traffic, any project is going to add traffic to what's currently there. The tremendous benefit that this property has is that traffic can be dispersed in many ways, as I mentioned earlier. People can get on I-84, they can get on Route 6, they can go south towards Ridgefield. People may get on Exit 1 just to bypass Mill Plain Road and go to other parts of Danbury from there. Traffic from this site is not likely to have much impact on Reserve Road or Woodland Road in the reserve unless people have a specific business reason to go into the reserve from this particular property. As Tom pointed out, as compared to office use, where most of the traffic is bunched into the weekday peak hours in the morning and the afternoon when people leave, residential traffic is spread out more over the length of the day. The weekday peak hour traffic is net negative compared to the office use. The Saturday peak hour is a plus 36. But for an indication from data that the state of Connecticut had for work along Mill Plain near Caroluzzi's and 100 Mill Plain office building, daily traffic there is between 14,000 and 16,000 trips per day. And I've used that range because people use pre-COVID and post-COVID numbers, and they are a little bit different. And so that's the range. What's my point? Plus 36 trips on a Saturday morning is not going to put much of a dent in that traffic on Mill Plain Road. Lastly, on traffic, we can all acknowledge that traffic on Mill Plain Road is problematic. This has been discussed a few times recently at the Planning Commission meetings. I'm confident that our city traffic engineer and our other city officials, including the city's well-respected Director of Public Works and the Planning Director, can work with the state of Connecticut to undertake small fixes, such as getting the timing of the traffic lights timed better and more in sync, which would help the traffic, to working on strategic widening of Mill Plain Road at certain locations for either lanes or turning lanes. But Mill Plain Road traffic should not be the simple go-to reason to deny any project on the west side of Danbury. With respect to utilities, the property is within the sewer district, as was pointed out. We've had numerous meetings, as we pointed out. And the sewer service is there. We would need to go to the city council to expand the water service district. But as was pointed out, city officials, including the head of Public Works, agrees with that. In terms of the environmental sensitivity, as we've noted, there are wetlands and there is the Sawmill River. Any proposed development is going to have to be reviewed by the EIC, and mostly because of the driveway and utility crossings. But nevertheless, anything upslope from the wetlands needs to be reviewed as part of the upland review area. This commission can find that the petition meets all the objectives of the regulations, meets all of the criteria. You all saw the letter from Farley Santos, the city's economic and community development advisor, in favor of this zone change, and he cites many of the very same reasons I'm presenting to you and that Waleed presented to you. as why apartments are better use for this site than industrial uses. The city planning director recommends approval of this application to change the zone. WestCog, the regional planning agency for Western Connecticut, gave this proposal a positive, and I want to, even though the chairman read it, I want to quote it again. Regional staff agrees that the parcel in question would be well suited for residential use and, given the local opposition to currently zoned light industrial uses, supports the proposed zone change. The Planning Commission was deadlocked 2 votes to 2 votes. 1 commissioner was absent. I'm not permitted to speak to the Planning Commission when they review a proposal. Unfortunately, that tie vote legally results in the recommendation being negative. One important fact that results from the 2-2 tie negative recommendation is that now, in order for this commission to approve this zone change, it will take 6 affirmative votes. 6 of you must vote in favor of this for this to pass. And it's 6 votes, even if only 6 people vote. A 5-4 vote in favor of this zone change will not be enough. That's a requirement of state statute. Now, at the Planning Commission meeting last week, one planning commissioner suggested this land should be kept IL-40 and suggested the property could be a contractor's yard or industrial condos with outdoor storage. Think about that for a minute. For the same reasons that the planning director pointed out would limit the number of apartments that could be built, such as topography and wetlands and the Sawmill River, these features would limit industrial uses such as contractors' yards, car repair facilities, a truck terminal, warehouse, moving and storage facility, wholesale distribution center, or manufacturing facility, or other industrial uses. And frankly, as I said earlier, these considerations justify that it's more appropriate for apartments to be here than any of those types of uses. Furthermore, this property, I believe, is located in the Kenosha Watershed Protection Zone and subject to the Watershed Protection Overlay Zone requirements in your regulations. That further hampers industrial uses, if not prohibits them altogether. And does the city really want more self-storage facilities? I doubt it. Now, I want to address the concept of not in my backyard in NIMBY. You're likely to hear a lot of arguments against this proposal tonight. Let me start with discussing the development of the west side of Danbury starting 25 years ago. The property surrounding the Union Carbide headquarters, which is now the Summit, was raw land that was zoned IL-40, and it was made up of forest and some fields. That land was sold to developers and became known as the Reserve. The Planned Neighborhood Development Zone was adopted by this commission in 2001, and trees began to get cleared, earth began to get excavated, and townhouses, condos, and apartment buildings were built. And people from the Reserve and Crown Point began driving down Old Ridgeberry Road and onto Mill Plain and down Sawmill Road and onto Mill Plain. No one ever wants to see raw land developed. It's just human nature if you live nearby. And now many of those people who moved into those townhouses and condos in the Reserve will tell you not to allow this development down the road. Fast forward to 6 years ago. The Summit owners came to this commission for changes to the PND zone regulations to allow the transformation of the Summit building into a mixed-use project. There were public hearings for that. Thereafter, the Summit came in for approval of a zone change for that 99-acre parcel from IL-40 to PND, and simultaneously, the public hearing included the review of a PND master plan for the 99-acre property. That master plan included committing 27 acres on Sawmill Road for a warehouse project. During those hearings, city officials, including some from the 6th Ward, applauded the commitment to keep some of the acreage dedicated to IL-40 routes and to require the 27 acres to be used for a warehouse. That was approved by this commission in that master plan. Then, when it came time to review a specific warehouse project for a moving company at that location, seemingly everyone, including officials from the 6th Ward, said they didn't want it there, very loudly. I suspect you'll hear from people tonight telling you to preserve this property as IL 40, but they cannot have their cake and eat it too. It would be disingenuous for people to argue that they don't want a warehouse at the foot of the Summit property, but 800 feet down the road, they'd love one. If this was a public hearing for a warehouse project or even for an office building with its traffic, you would be hearing from people opposed to that too. It's human nature. The city of Danbury has rezoned all of this IL 40 land on the west side over 25 years, hundreds of acres. We're here just with the last piece, a mere 27 acres. You may hear that the loss of property in the IL 40 zone is an incremental, piece by piece, loss of industrial zone property. While that's a minor consideration, respectfully, this commission's focus must be on this particular property and why, for numerous reasons, it does make sense to change the zone of this property to multifamily. You'll hear that taxes from this project will not cover city services and schools. That is simply not true. We've heard it before, but it's debunked. Ask the tax assessor, ask the city planner. Multifamily projects are large tax revenue generators for the city of Danbury. Look at Crown Point. Look at Kennedy Flats. Those developments have more units than this project will have, but you can see that these types of projects are major revenue generators. In addition, under the new fee structure that this commission just adopted, the application fee to the Planning Commission, if the zone change is adopted and we go in for the IHO, would generate a per unit application fee of 225 units times $50 a unit, or $11,250 just to apply for this project. And there's water and sewer fees the city would collect from this project. So the city does benefit. This type of a project is not a drain on the city. And if you use the argument that, well, you know, our police and fire and EMS are all going to be stretched, well then, is that what's going to be said about every proposed housing project in the city of Danbury? How are you ever going to get the units that the housing plan and the POCD plan recommend that you approve and try to increase the number of? You'll also hear that these apartments will add to overcrowding in the schools, and I agree wholeheartedly with the planning director. The demographic studies and the real data concerning the percentage of school-age children coming out of 1-bedroom and 2-bedroom apartments shows that it will be a pretty low percentage of the overall population of such a project. Now, lastly, the word you want to hear, I just want to talk about the property owner. The principal owner of Blasius Enterprises is Fritz Blasius. He owns car dealerships. He is not some big-time residential real estate developer. He's always wanted to work cooperatively with city officials wherever he has property or a dealership. And that was the case here, where his representatives, Neil O'Leary and Bill Palumba, approached city officials before developing any plan or filing this application. These two gentlemen attended almost all the meetings with city officials and kept an open dialogue with these officials. So with that, Mr. Chairman, through you, I'd like to ask Neil O'Leary, who's the owner's representative, whether he wanted to add anything at this juncture.
Sure, absolutely. I don't see him on my screen. I don't know if he's here tonight.
He was.
I am here. Can you hear me okay?
Oh, yeah, I can hear you. I can't see. I'll find you. That's okay.
Thank you, Mr.
Oh,
Chairman.
there you are. I found you. Go ahead,
Okay, sir.
Mr. O'Leary.
Thank you. As Attorney Beecher said, my name is Neil O'Leary. I'm actually the former mayor of the city of Waterbury, where I served for 12 consecutive years before I retired in December of 2023. For the record, I have great admiration for all of you who serve on city boards and commissions, particularly zoning, and thank you for your service. Following my retirement, Mr. Blasius hired me to consult for him on this project. We then met immediately with Mayor Roberto Alves and Representative Farley Santos, and I advised them that it was Mr. Blasius' wishes. As you mentioned, Bill Palumbo was with me, but it was Mr. Blasius' wishes to find out what the city thought was the best use for this property. That's what he does for every property that he buys in whatever city or town, not only in Connecticut, but he really does respect the leadership of each town that he has a project going in, and he wants to know what the town thinks is the best for the property that he's acquired. In this case, after meeting with the mayor and his economic development team, and there was an awful lot of meetings, a lot of thought, a lot of discussion with city officials, planners, and engineers, and the idea of this proposed residential complex seemed to be the best fit for the property, particularly due to the fact that the surrounding properties are all residential, and the fact that there's a tremendous housing shortage currently in your city, which of course Attorney Beecher did a great job documenting. We created this proposal before you this evening with the very, very best land use planners, engineers, and experts in the entire area. I believe that this team, starting with Mr. Beecher and all the way through, are probably amongst the most experienced engineers and planners and experts, quite frankly, in the area. And of course, we had numerous conversations with your city planner, Waleed, who was very conscientious and very thoughtful in the entire process. In the interest of full transparency, we then organized a meeting just last week at the Hotel Zero, where the proposal was presented to participating residents from Rivington. Those residents took photographs of the plans before you tonight and asked thoughtful questions to our engineers and the land use experts, which of course were at the meeting with us. As a former mayor who has overseen numerous residential and commercial development projects in my 12 years in office, it has been an absolute pleasure working with your mayor, his economic development director, Attorney Beecher, Waleed, and the city planner, and all of the great experts that we've worked with on this project. I can tell you, I had so many developments going through Waterbury in the last 12 years, and I've had the most pleasure in working with this team, and I sincerely mean that. You have very, very great people working in your area. At the end of the day, it's Mr. Blasius' intent, on finding the very, best use for this land in conjunction with your town and what you think is in the best interest of your city and the surrounding area. And it's really been a pleasure working with all of you. I thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. O'Leary. Commission members, any questions of Mr. O'Leary? Sir, thank you for your service for the city of Waterbury.
Thank you.
Commission members, any other questions? Attorney Beecher.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That concludes our presentation.
Commission members, I'm going to ask if there's any questions of Attorney Beecher at this time. Commission members of Attorney Beecher. Actually, of Attorney Beecher or any of his other guest speakers. Commissioner James.
Might have missed. Good
You're
evening.
You're good.
I'm Michelle James. Sorry about that. My
That's
fingers.
all right.
In your presentation, you talked about the number of affordable units if you were maxed out at 294 units. How many affordable units would you have at the 225?
The difference between the 196 and 225, so I'm going to say 14 with quick math.
Nope, 29.
Okay.
Wait, what'd you say? Difference between what? Say again?
196 would be the conventional maximum.
Yep.
So
And
25
220
plus
and
429, divide by 2.
Got it.
15 or 14.
Right.
So the 225 will include affordable, not just with the housing incentive option.
That's correct. It has to if we go to a number above 196. 196 is the conventional maximum for this property in that zone. So above that, it's a 1-for-1, one affordable, one market.
So then isn't the planning commission referral incorrect then? There'll be no guarantee that there'll be affordable units in the proposed.
Well,
residential
the
development?
point they're making, Mr. Chairman, is, as I said earlier, we're constrained here because you can't put a condition on this zone change that we do
Right.
the project. That's all they're saying.
Okay,
It's not anything we ever anywhere misrepresented.
Yeah.
We've been consistent from the very beginning. Once the city thought this was the best use of this property.
thank you. Commissioner James, I'm sorry to cut you off. Are you all set?
Yeah, no, that I was addressing that because I read that as well, and I just wanted a little clarity as to the amount if there was affordable units being planned. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Attorney Beecher. Commissioner Bennett, unmute, take the floor. There you go.
Okay.
Yep.
Attorney Beecher, this is my question, and it's about traffic. You don't think it's an issue, but I do because I live in the west side of Danbury and I travel that highway to Mill Plain Road just about every day, and it's a traffic nightmare. Here we're putting numbers together and the Crown Point hasn't even opened yet. So how do you forecast that traffic input when they're not there? So everybody kind of takes that number, but I don't know how you get there.
No, Commissioner Bennett, there's two Crown projects. There's one Crown Point, which we recently approved, which was the old Hilton Hotel.
Yes.
Sheraton Hotel. That's what I think you're talking about. But this is another project that's called Crown something.
Well, it is called Crown Point.
Oh, there's two Crown Points then.
Yeah, and that's 466, I think, was the number. 466 units.
So, Commissioner Bennett, this project adjoins a project called Crown Point, which is 460 units. The Crown Point you're talking about that hasn't even been finished yet is the Crown Point on the opposite side, closer to the entrance ramp. That was the old hotel.
Oh, so that population won't exit in front of Crown Point down to that traffic light?
No. There's two Crown Points. They're like in the old days. I could maybe throw a softball to it, but now I can't.
All right.
One's at exit 2 and one's at exit 1.
Yeah.
But
they're close.
Yeah.
They're close, but they're a mile or so apart.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. And then my other is, and I made mention to the 5 buildings. To me personally, and I know I can't tell you how to set your property, but I see 5 buildings and blacktop. So that bothers me because this is Connecticut and we love our woods and we love those things. So why don't you just do 4 buildings, make it a little bit more livable? You only have one exit and entrance into that property. That I don't understand at all. Has the fire department approved this? Do they have the right to look at this application?
Oh, they will. We're looking at the land and we can't tell them how to design their buildings. And what they showed us was conceptual only for us just to take a look at an example. And in my opinion, and I hope people don't get upset with me, but when you take a look at those residential buildings, they basically all look the same everywhere in America. Avalon builds the same type of thing. Everybody builds it. There's only so much you can do in a 40 unit or a 20 unit apartment building or apartment house. So they all are the same type of rectangle and they cut them up into units and there's 2 floors, 3 floors, 4 floors, whatever they're going to do. Well, we can't call the shots on that.
So we can't say how many people are going to live there.
No. What we're going to do is we're going to take a look and we're going to decide what we think that land should hold and what that land should do. Either remain as it is or change it to this. And then they have awful lot of function and avenues to go to. And I'm going to let I'll let the director speak to that, and then I'll let the Attorney Beecher because he should have been answering these questions. I'm not going to take it upon myself to do that. Director, do you want to touch on anything?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So to clarify, we can control the maximum number of units. However, of course, some applicant might choose not to actually go to the maximum. We can only control the maximum units. Say in our case, if it's approved, it would be 194 units if the applicant doesn't choose to go to the density bonus. In terms of what you were talking about, which is design, it's difficult to dictate design. However, lately we have been very successful, meaning planning, to work with the applicant to come to get a better outcome in terms of design. It's not you have to do it this way, but we give a recommendation, and a lot of the applicants have been really receptive to the ideas we have.
All right.
I hope that answered your
Thank
question.
you. Let me have Attorney Beecher come in too, and then we'll see if Commissioner Bennett's satisfied. Attorney Beecher?
Yeah, I just wanted to point out in answer to the question that when Mr. Lindquist was showing the aerial photos as well as the plan, it's pretty much all forest right now. It's treed. And so more than halfway up the hill is going to remain treed from the road up, because that's where, we call it wetlands, but that's a type of soil and the type of plants that grow there, but that's going to be preserved. And then you also have the sort of little panhandle that Waleed was showing earlier, that right now we're showing a little cul-de-sac in there, but then there's all that land that's not going to be disturbed either. So there's quite a lot that will be undisturbed.
It goes to other departments besides after us, Commissioner Bennett.
Okay.
Anything else, Commissioner Bennett?
Nope, that's fine. I'm
Okay.
done.
Director, you have your hand still up?
One thing actually I forgot to mention. So
Sure.
please do not forget what was shown in terms of the slide about the design. This is really conceptual. If this is approved, I mean the zoning amendment, they will have to apply for a site plan application. At that stage, all the details are hashed out. By detailed, I mean all the details of engineering, fire, all other departments. And there's always collaboration between us, meaning the city, and the applicant, so that the application meets all the requirements. All what you are seeing might change a little bit or a lot based on what we'll discover once they start submitting the detailed engineering designs. I'm good, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, I think you're muted.
Thank you. Sorry. I yell at everybody else and I'm the one that Commissioner Bennett, are you all set?
Yes, I am.
Thank you. Commissioner Botello.
Yes, just a question. Considering that the affordable component of this application is so important, I want to know what the situation is as far. I would like to talk to the actual applicant to find out what their intentions are. And is this going to be paramount in their application? Is this something that's going to be still variable? I mean, the attractive part of this is that they're going to be helping to bring in affordable housing. I want to know, are there guardrails here, or what we're looking at, and what's going to make us feel good that this, if this was to be approved, that it would come in as an affordable housing project?
Attorney Beecher.
Yeah, I can answer that.
Yes,
So
please.
if we go in with the IHO, which is our full intent, that actually gets reviewed by the Planning Commission. And so the affordable units are required as part of that process to actually be deed restricted. So if we go in with this, if this map change is approved, it's going to be fully vetted by the planning staff and the Planning Commission.
So unless, I mean, the concept is that you want the affordable housing, and the only way this wouldn't happen is if you wouldn't get it from the Planning Commission. Is that what I could take out of this? What would prevent you from making this an affordable housing project? Is it the direction of the applicant, or is it something that the Planning Commission would prevent?
Attorney Beecher, you would apply to the Planning Commission, and if the Planning Commission denied them, Commissioner Botello, in theory, tell me if I'm wrong, Attorney Beecher, they have to apply for the housing incentive option to get affordable units. If the Planning Commission denies them, then they would be denying the addition of affordable units. But they're going to be seeking to have affordable units, and if approved, they would be required by that approval to build the affordable units. Is that correct, Attorney Beecher?
That's correct. And I'm not aware of any application where the IHO was not approved. The number of units that can be reviewed by the planning, and as Waleed pointed out, certainly would be discussions about that in advance of filing the application. But I don't believe that any project owner has ever been denied the IHO outright.
Good. Thank you. And I just wanted to verify that the applicant was in that direction and in a strong feeling about it, and that's the way he wanted to go about it. All
That's
right.
absolutely
Thank you.
true. As I said earlier, and as Mr. O'Leary has also said.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Botello. Thank you, Attorney Beecher. Director Al-Bakri, can you just confirm that agree to what we had discussed as to the procedure?
To you, Mr. Chairman, that's absolutely right. In order to have housing density, you need to apply to the Planning Commission as a special exception. What I understood from Attorney Beecher is that the applicant has the intention to apply for such housing density.
Thank you. I just wanted to get the director on record of that, so we were accurate in our discussion.
And Mr. Chairman, you might want to double check with Attorney Beecher that the intent is that the applicant will apply for a special exception for housing density if the zoning is approved.
Attorney Beecher, you commit to that?
I'm happy to say it again, yes.
Thank you very much. Commission members, any other questions of Attorney Beecher? Commission members? Commission members? I don't see any hands. If I'm missing a hand, you can shout. I think Attorney Beecher, we're all set with you right now. I would, before I ask, and everyone, thank you for your presentations. Before I ask for anyone else wishing to speak in favor, I want to say, where did I put it? That we do have one letter that was matter of record. Everybody has a copy of it. It was advertised and made part of the packets from the Economic and Community Development Advisor, Farley Santos, in favor. If he's here, he can touch on it, read it, or just discuss it. Is there anyone here wishing to speak in favor of this petition? Is there anyone here wishing to speak in favor of this petition? Anyone? I don't see any hands. Let me go to another page. Anyone here wishing to speak in favor of this petition? Ms. Reed, you see anybody, hear anybody?
No.
Is there anyone here wishing to speak in opposition to this petition? Is there anyone here wishing to speak in opposition to this petition? Is there anyone here wishing to speak in opposition to this petition? I don't have any hand. I don't see any hands. I don't hear any voice. Oh, Councilman Rotello. Yeah, your camera was off. There you go, Councilman Rotello.
Yeah, okay. All right.
Councilman, please get a little bit closer to the mic.
Is that any better?
Yeah, you're talking. Try it again. We can't hear you well at all. No, we don't hear you at all.
Okay, go to someone else.
Oh, there you go. You're good.
Okay,
Go.
okay.
Stay right there.
You can hear me okay now? Okay.
Yes. Councilman Rotello.
Yeah, this is a tough one, Mr. Chairman. We're all in favor of increasing the housing stock in Danbury. I was one of the ones 20 some odd years ago who voted to convert most of the IL-40 land on the west side to residential to the PND, and I think that was a proper decision. As it happened, it didn't really soak up a lot of Connecticut residents. Most of the people that moved in were from New York, but that's fine. I do have a slight comment about Attorney Beecher's crack about, we were for a warehouse and now we're going to be for whatever. The fact of the matter is nobody's going to build a warehouse on that site. It's too terraced. Nobody's going to build a 150,000 square foot warehouse on that site. And if they did, Attorney Beecher knows this, it's a special exception. And because it's a special exception, it would require a public hearing. And believe me, the residents of the reserve would show up for that one. So it wouldn't be as if it would be slipped in through the back door and it would wind up, coming under their radar when they saw bulldozers out there. The issue for this project is a balance between the needs of the city of Danbury, which are twofold. The city of Danbury needs housing, It also needs non-residential grand list developments like industrial developments and non-residential commercial retail. The problem with this specific site is well documented. Attorney Beecher did a good job. Director Abakwi did a great job. We understand the sensitivity of the site. We understand the fact that the brook, and I've walked the site with permission of the principals. It's a gorgeous site. It really is a wonderful site. And we understand that that brook leads down to the Kenosha watershed, and the Kenosha, Lake Kenosha is no longer a recreational body of water. It's now a reservoir, and there's a higher standard of protection that it's going to need. And putting a industrial site in there that might have chemicals, that might require a foam for firefighting, that might have trucks going in and out, large parking lots, terrace parking lots, whatever, that could conceivably leak into that river and then into our reservoir would be unacceptable. Doesn't mean that you can't have industrial uses. There are plenty of industrial uses, including, of all things, daycare that could go into that site. But that's the balance. And I just wanted to point out a couple of things. We've had several meetings, the principals, Councilman Shanese and I. For the record, Paul Rotello, 13 Linden Place, also the one of 2 6th Ward council people representing this particular neighborhood and this site. We've had meetings with the principals and we've had meetings with the residents. And while nobody's in particularly a favorable position, as we heard tonight when you asked for anybody present speaking in favor, the temperature of the room is essentially ambivalent or somewhat against because of traffic concerns. My position is industrial development on that site would be less appropriate than residential. I think maybe Attorney Beecher mentioned, or no, might have been Commissioner Bennett mentioned. Somebody mentioned that we all like to see, I think it was both actually, kind of in their own way, that we like to see undeveloped land stay undeveloped. I don't particularly think that that's a realistic proposition. I think the owner has a right to do something with the property, and at the moment he has a right to develop it as IL-40 land. And most of that would probably be wholly inappropriate for the ecological sensitivity of the site and for the neighbors. Not to say that a 5-building, massive 200+ apartment unit would thrill the neighbors either, but all things considered, it's probably the lesser of 2 evils. I'm going to back away. I just wanted to put that out there. I'm not sure if this meeting is going to be continued or not. We had spoken to principals earlier and they had favored continuation, but I haven't heard that this evening for the record. So I don't know if this is going to be my only shot at commenting. I just wanted to put out there that I can see the benefits of both this particular petition and also leaving it as an IL-40 parcel with specific and site-sensitive development. But again, I will back away, and if anybody else wants to speak, particularly if the neighbors want to speak, I'd be welcome to hear their comments. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilman Rotello. Commission members, any questions of Councilman Rotello at this time? Thank you very much. I see a hand of Mr. Camilletti, Frank Camilletti. Unmute, and you have the floor for as long as you'd like. Nope, you're still muted, Mr. Camilletti. Not yet. There you go.
We got it now.
There you go. Thank you.
Well, thank you for allowing me to speak. I just want to say that for the record, I am I live at the Musen Ridge at Rivington, so I'm a Rivington homeowner. Just for the record, I have advocated for my community in the past, as some of you may well be aware of. What I'm speaking right now is speaking for myself as a homeowner. I'm not advocating for anything other than myself at the present time. I want to thank everybody for presenting a very detailed report. I mean, from everybody that spoke, quite honestly, there's nothing to complain about in terms of what they have delivered in terms of information. I am an information guy. I don't really want to make up my mind until I actually know what it is that I'm dealing with, and that's where I stand right now. So I'm neutral. I'm neither for or against, but if I would be leaning towards residential rather than commercial, obviously. But as I said before, I'm going to remain neutral because I have a lot of questions that I need answers to. I'm in a process of getting some of those answers by having meetings with various people that I would like to meet with between now and maybe the next time you meet, unless I don't think anything is going to happen tonight. But like Paul, I'm sorry, like Councilman Rotello, I just want to make sure that I can be heard, at least for the time being. So
Yes, absolutely. Take your time. Help yourself.
okay, so basically I'm aware of that there is a housing shortage nationwide. I mean, there's actually an act, something that's trying to be passed in Congress that's called. I guess, let me look at my notes here because it is kind of a strange name. A nationwide shortage of houses. It's constantly called a. Bear with me a second. I'm sorry. I forget the exact name, but basically Congress is trying to pass a law that basically will allow homeowners who are labeled as cost burdened, which means that 1/3 of the homeowners are paying 1/3 of their salary for housing, whether it's rental or whether it's mortgages. And they're trying to pass this law because of obviously the housing shortage that we are addressing locally. It's also being addressed nationally. So it's a national situation that we have here, which is unfortunate because I'm a foreign-born American citizen. So I know why we came here. And these kinds of things, in my opinion, shouldn't exist, but they do. So we have to deal with the reality of where we are today. With that said, as I said, I'm basically speaking for myself. I appreciate everything that I've heard. I have not spoken to anyone on this panel, with the exception of maybe my two councilmen. With regards to this project, I've actually walked the land myself, so I know what it is that we're talking about in terms of what it is that you're discussing. And as Paul said, it's a pretty piece of land. To correct something that was said before in error, I'm not quite sure who said it, but Crown Plaza is the hotel side, which is exit 2, and Crown Point is the housing project on Sawmill Road, to clarify what was said. The property that we're talking about is exit 1, which is Crown Point, which is the housing project, which is where the housing project is, which are rentable housing units now. And that's quite a large project. And this land abuts that project itself. So the simple questions that I have is this: as a local resident, they are the reservoirs, and I know the answer. I already know the answer to this, but I want to ask the question because I want to get it on the record. Are the reservoirs sufficiently enough, Danbury reservoirs, sufficiently enough to support the rapid growth of Danbury? And are the existing water towers, which correct me if I'm wrong here, which basically distributes the water to my community and others' community, do we have sufficient enough distribution of water to reach all these homes that we're talking about? That's something I think you might be able to address tonight or not. I'm really not quite sure, but I think it's an answer that all the people I want to know. I think all the people in my community would want to know, because we have been restricted in terms of how often we could water our lawns, for example, which is not a catastrophe, but at the same time, it is something that we all like green grass. But we've been restricted, not because, in my understanding, is not because the reservoirs are too low or we don't have sufficient water in the reservoirs, but because we don't have the right distribution system in place. If I'm wrong, please correct me if that is the case. The other thing is, and I think somebody addressed it, I don't remember who addressed it, in terms of the capability of once we build all these new apartment complexes, which will bring a lot of people in. I'm not quite sure how many kids are going to be here. Nobody really knows the answer to that question. But it's not just whether or not we have enough schools or rooms in the school to be able to accommodate the children that may or may not move in here. It's whether or not, based upon the shortage of teachers, whether we can hire enough teachers to basically educate, the students, the kids that we'll be bringing in, when, from what I understand, it seems to be a shortage of teachers, not only locally, but nationwide. And that's something that I'd like you guys to address, if you possibly can tonight. And if not, you can address it at a later date. my thing here in terms of when I'm having these kinds of discussion with whoever I'm speaking to, I'm always looking for the balance. And I think Mr. Beecher used that word. I like that word. It's one of my favorite words. Balancing these things out is exactly how you should arrive at the right decisions. So I have a whole lot more questions, but I don't want to take up all night long on this thing because I know we got other business we got to attend to. But those are my questions. And I would like if you can for you to answer those questions, or for maybe to contact me so that I can get answers on a different way, so we are not wasting more time than you might actually have allocated for this meeting tonight. I'll leave that up to you.
Well, first of all, Mr. Camaletti, you could speak for as long as you want. We'll stay here. We've been here till 3 o'clock in the morning, plenty of times. And by the way, it's always good to see you. I know you pop in every once in a while to come here, so it's good to see you out and some of the others. I'm going to let the director right now speak to the water issue, and I think he's going to say something like, if there wasn't enough capacity or if there wasn't enough water, the next hand that gets it from the zoning commission, whenever projects get approved or not, makes that decision, and it just simply wouldn't happen unless they have capacity. Director, did you want to address that?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Mr. Camaletti. Those are really good questions. Some of it I wouldn't be able to answer because they are bigger questions, but I will do my best to explain what's going on. What we're talking about here is just the zoning stage. If zoning is approved, then the applicant will have to apply for what we call site plan application. At that stage, water capacity, like in terms of distribution, if there's enough lines, will be looked at. However, as I mentioned during my presentation, this has been going on since August last year. So our engineering department has been involved from the get-go. And I have the green light that everything could be actually engineered to meet all the requirements. All the details can come later, but they are confident, our engineering department, that the application have enough water and sewage capacity. That's number one question. Second one, you were talking about the school one. We have a school system here, as you know, it's working under the city, but separate. All what I can tell you for now, the city is building a new high school. The city has been funding the school system in terms of new teachers. A lot of money is being actually paid now to improve infrastructure and to hire new teachers. That's what I know. In terms of the actual details and the budget, I believe they were actually published a couple of months ago on the city's website. If you can contact me directly, I would be happy to connect you with the mayor's office to give you more info about school system. Back to you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Director. Mr. Camaletti, anything else? Did that help a little bit?
Yes, it did. I appreciate the response. I will follow up with the gentleman as well on some of the other things, some of the other points I'd like clarifications on, if I may.
Sure.
But thank you very much for the thing. By the way, the thing that Congress is trying to put through is something called an ADU, which is an accessory dwelling units.
Oh, yes, we've had that. We've been through that in Danbury about maybe 10 years ago. We actually, the zoning commission actually put in regulations for ADUs, accessory dwelling units. It got way out of hand, and we basically 2 years after that, because of enforcement, we basically changed the regulations back. So we do not have ADUs in Danbury. And we took it for a test ride, and it didn't work out.
In Sherman, about 20 years ago, my daughter built a house in Sherman. I actually had, I don't know if it was called an ADU back then or not, but quite honestly, they built an apartment over the garage so that someone can actually rent it. I think it's if Washington's going after this thing, maybe it's something that Danbury might want to consider again. I'm not quite sure. The reason why they're going after this and doing it this way, because it requires, I think, an explanation is what it really does. The reason why they are not, most homeowners and most banks won't lend as a second mortgage is because they're not allowed to get these loans off their books like they do if you have a first mortgage, where they go to Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac and they securitize the loans. They're trying to pass this law, if it can be passed, so that these banks can get rid of these loans and they can be securitized. So therefore they would allow homeowners to build, over the garage or in the basement or things of that sort. That's what I couldn't think of before. Thanks very much.
You're very welcome. Commission members, is there any questions of Mr. Camaletti at this time? I see the director's hand. Did you want to say anything else, Director?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, just since we're talking about housing shortage all over the nation, I'm sure a lot of you know about it, but just in case, the state of Connecticut, there have been a law, the name of it is HB 5002, that would have made a lot of changes for housing and made it very easy for anyone to have multifamily anywhere in Connecticut. The governor vetoed the law for now, but who knows what's going to happen. But just if you Google what I'm talking about, HB 5002, you see what might happen in Connecticut next year or so. Back to you, Mr.
Thank you. Mr. Pellegrino, before I go to you, let me just say for the record that we also received two letters that were also part of the record, part of the package of opposition from Brian Walters Jr. and from Gary Sivasek. Maybe they're here tonight, maybe not to speak to that, but there were two letters of opposition. And I just lost that gentleman. Mr. Pellegrino, did you want to talk? No? Yes? Unmute, please.
Okay, can you hear
There
me?
you go. Yeah, you're great. Go ahead.
Okay. Just a quick question, Chairman Haddad. Will this parcel be part of the master reserve?
Oh, no.
Oh, it's not, even though it's on the same side of the street as Crown
No.
Point, which is?
No, absolutely not. This is totally completely separate. It's not an expansion. It's not a phase. It's got nothing to do with the reserve.
Okay, that was it. Just a point of clarification. Thank you.
However,
yes,
I know it's late, and I do like to sometimes tell stories. I will tell you that there is a common denominator. A million years ago, the reserve piece and the owner of this piece were owned by the same person.
Yeah, it's your family, right?
I think it was a Farrington family. And this little piece, when the developers, when Union Carbide bought the 640 acres, which the reserve is now on 546,
right,
and the building is on 99.878, the developers, when they went in for the, when Union Carbide bought the piece, when the developers, when they split it up to sell it and they did the P&D, I'm sure you're not aware of this, but anybody can apply for a zone change in Danbury, even if you don't own the property. So the developers were going to take this piece of land and bring it in to the P&D zone, although it was owned by someone else. They thought that that person would come and speak in opposition, so they decided to leave it alone. So that's why that little 25-acre piece of property, zoned industrial, is there all by itself, surrounded by residential. It was just a decision was made.
Okay.
Right?
Well, thank you for the history lesson as well. Thank you, Commissioner.
You're welcome. Commission members, anything of Mr. Pellegrino? Is there anyone else wishing to speak in opposition to this petition? Councilman Chianese, I see your hand. Councilman Chianese.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You got
I waited to the end because I wanted to hear the whole presentation before I actually made some comments, as Councilman Rotello did. For the record, Benjamin Chianese, 5 Briar Ridge Road, and also the other councilman representing the 6th Ward. Well, like the other speakers this evening, I'm really not 100% sure whether I'm in favor of this or not, but I do believe that the residential would be a less of an impact than the IL-40 piece. Having been a resident of this area for well over 50 years, I do know this piece very well, and I do understand that the area has changed from IL-40 to mainly a residential area, and I think the residential piece would be less impact than an industrial. Because as you know, I spoke here many times and I kept saying, you know, it's hard to build IL-40 in a residential zone, but a residential could be built in an IL-40 zone. So since this is mainly a residential area, as we heard from another applicant down the road, that a residential would be an easier fit to go through. But I do understand that this is just the first piece of the other 2 steps that are equally as important for this approval. And one of being planning, which was mentioned several times this evening. And the other one is the Environmental Impact Commission, which I was a chairman of back in the early 2000s when we approved Crown Point. At least the first phase, I was part of it. So I'm pretty familiar with this area, and I'm fairly familiar with the brook that's going there. And with the concerns back in early 2000s, when we approved the Crown Point, you got to keep in mind that Lake Kenosha was not a reservoir, or wasn't an emergency reservoir back then. So the brook at the time wasn't as sensitive as it is today. And if this is going to be continued, Mr. Chairman, I would highly recommend that the commission go to Crown Point and actually see the bridge that leads to the 5 or 6 units that are behind it. And if you really want to know what this project is going to look like, that's what it's going to look like. And like it was mentioned by Attorney Beecher earlier, if you're standing on Sawmill Road and you look up, you do not necessarily see those buildings that are behind it. So it is camouflaged in a way. The bridge that goes over it, I'm not exactly happy with that bridge. It's all concrete. It doesn't have the aesthetics that I think it should. So hopefully this piece will be more aesthetic, since the bridge would be more closer to the road. But again, Mr. Chairman, I'm not necessarily against this project. I think the residential push for it is probably the better way at this point, giving from your commission standpoint. However, planning will actually give us the footprint, what these buildings are going to look like. And I think EIC will actually tell us how many buildings you can actually build. So without seeing the blueprint, I don't know if they're going to go up with those additional units for the affordable housing, or they're going to expand out, which would require more of an EIC impact as a footprint. So, Mr. Chairman, those are my comments at this point. I do reserve the right to hopefully to speak on it later if you do continue it, but right now I have no objections really to the RA 40 and the RA conversion at this point. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chinese. Stay there in case you get any questions. Commission members, any questions of Councilman Chinese? Thank you, Councilman. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition to this petition? Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition to this petition? Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition to this petition? I've looked at all the boxes. I don't see hands and I don't hear any voices. Attorney Beecher, would you like to just sum up? Any last comments before I go to the director?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. No, I think everybody's covered a lot of information tonight. Some good questions were asked. As I've said throughout the night, and as others have said, the zone change is granted. This proposed project will meet very real needs for the city of Danbury. And as I said and reiterated, my client's committed to the affordable housing component using the IHO, subject, of course, to Planning Commission approval. Last thing I just wanted to say in summary is that your plan of conservation and development is called Innovate with an exclamation point. So that's certainly something to keep in mind when, instead of just the same old, think about this being an appropriate change of zone. And that's my final point. And thank you very much for your consideration.
Attorney Beecher, if I may, everybody knows how long I've been here on this commission, how many times I've seen you and Attorney Marcus, Attorney Jaber, Attorney Collins, Attorney Mizuko. Many times the attorney will come up seeking his own change, and a commission member would sit and say, whoa, time out. There's plenty of other things you can do here. You know, before we want to change your zone, you got plenty of options. Well, I got to be honest with you, looking at the permitted uses, forgetting about special exception, it doesn't appear to me, and I wanted to listen to comments and I wanted to see the exhibits, and I researched the property and I know that property like the back of my hand. I don't think there's anything there that I want to see industrial built. True that it's special exception for warehousing, but there's 5 or 6 uses for manufacturing. So if there's no use for office space and there's no use for warehousing and there's nobody's going to put up any of those storage facilities, which they can do, they can manufacture electrical equipment, optical goods, business machines, pharmaceuticals, toiletries. And I don't think that fits in the neighborhood. To be frank, I don't think any of the uses under 682 fit into the neighborhood. So usually we would be saying to you when you want to come in and change the zone, wait a minute, you got plenty of other stuff here. Don't pull the wool over our eyes. But I got to believe here that this time around, you know, I'm not going to argue with you.
Well, good. Although I'm not sure when the last time I pulled wool over your eyes was, but
However, we haven't finished having conversation with the rest of the commission members or or the director's finishing comments. So I'm not 100% convinced yet. Anyway, thank you, Attorney Beecher. Commission members, anything of Attorney Beecher? Director, you want to sum this thing up?
Mr. Chairman, I believe I mentioned all what I needed to cover, but there's one point I would like to share with you, and it's about what happened the first time I came to know about the application. So after I had the first meeting between myself and the applicants, I had an internal discussion about what's basically what we were talking about. So when I looked at it, I said, well, first off, we should work with the applicant to change the zoning from what it is to another zone. The first thing that came to mind is, well, usually commercial could be can complement the residential uses. By that, visualize or picture something like, you know, where Trader Joe is on Mill Plain. The issue with this and why it wouldn't work on the site is, as we talked before, there's very limited area that is not very sensitive. And in order to be visible, because the area that we can build is tucked away, we have to clear the whole site of all the existing trees and also a lot of the wetland. So it wouldn't be a win situation for the city and it wouldn't work out. That's why after that, when we talked about it, internally, we decided, professionally speaking, based on all the existing laws and regulations and our zoning ordinance criteria that I mentioned over one of the slides, that the best fit from the city's point of view will be multifamily. That's all what I wanted to say, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Commission members, anything of the director? Commission members? Not seeing any hands or hearing any voices. Scott, to the commission, we're not waiting for any more exhibits. And we're not looking for any more documents. I think we have everything that we need. Is there anyone who wants to make a motion to close this public hearing? Commissioner Botello. Commissioner, you're muted.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to close this hearing.
Commission members, there's a motion to close this public hearing. Is there a second? Commissioner.
Second.
I'm sorry, who said that? Is that you, Commissioner Cabrera?
Yes, it was
Yes.
Jackie.
Yes, this is my mommy.
All right. You can second it too if you'd like. We'll swear you in at the next. Okay, so there's a motion to close the public hearing by Commissioner Botello, second by Commissioner Cabrera and Child. Anyone else wanted to mention that motion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed? We had no one else in the Cabrera house that wanted to second that motion. Okay. Thank you. This public hearing is closed. Thank you, everyone. Commissioner Botello, yes.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion with this closed hearing to push it over to old business for possible decision tonight and be a full review.
Commission members, we have a portion of our agenda that says old business for discussion possible action. We have Commissioner Botello made a motion to bring that over to number 1 for old business for discussion possible action. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Jody. Was that you?
Yep.
Thank you. Commission members, a motion to move this to number 1 under old business for discussion possible action with a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed? I don't see or hear any opposition. So this will be number 1 under old business for discussion possible action. And I'm going to just put it down here. Thank you. Let us now go to a petition from MSM. Oh, let me get all my stuff here. Okay. Petition from MSM, 44 Old Ridgebury Road, LLC, 44 Old Ridgebury Road, C16006 for change of zone from RMF4 to RO. Let me read into the record the 8-3A referral dated July 18th, 2025. Theodore J. Haddad, Jr., Chairman, Danbury Zoning Commission, Marlon E. Finelli, Chairman, Danbury Planning Commission, referral 83A referral petition of MSM 44 Old Ridgebury Road. At a web-based Zoom meeting held on July 16th, 2025, the City of Danbury Planning Commission voted to give the above referenced petition a positive recommendation for the following reasons. The proposed RO zoning district is well suited for the area, and this change would support transitional development and introduce needed flexibility for future site uses. The proposed rezoning is consistent with the Plan of Conservation Development's objective of promoting land use compatibility and environmental stewardship. Mr. Chioccio made the motion to give this petition a positive recommendation. Mrs. Hofstadter seconded the motion as it was passed unanimously by voice vote, with 4 ayes for Mr. Chioccio, Mrs. Hofstadter, Mr. Sylvan, and Chairman Finelli. Additionally, we have an 83B referral, 44 Old Ridgebury Road. Good morning. Thank you for submitting the attached referral. It is the opinion of the regional staff that the proposed zone change would be a benefit to the City of Danbury and would not adversely impact neighboring municipalities. Regional staff supports the petition. This is from Westcog, and it is signed All My Best, Tucker. Let's see. You like Tucker?
Yeah.
Director Al Bakri, can you please, I'm going to hand it over to you for your staff report and comments.
Good evening again, Mr. Chairman.
Good evening.
Allow me to share my screen with you here.
Absolutely.
Can you all see?
We have it. You're good. Yes. Thank you.
Okay. So thanks, Mr. Chairman. And before I start, I would like to say that the application we have to the collaboration between the applicant and the city staff, and I'm going to explain why. So what we have a zoning application to change the zoning of the property here. If you can look at on the as a slide, it's the one in yellow. It's about 8 acres, so it's a big site. And I'm sure all of you are familiar with the building here that I'm showing on the slide. So the application is to change the zoning from RMF4, which is multifamily, to RO, which is residential office. I'm sure you didn't come across many of RO zones. It's a fairly new one that was added, I believe, like 10 years ago, with the intent of having a transition between incompatible uses. And I'm going to later on elaborate on what I mean. So first off, I would like to go over the location of the site we're talking about. So the site we're talking about is shown here over the slide. It's where it's actually bordered by the yellow line. It's about 8 acres. And if you look to the left-hand side, this is the survey we have. So the building itself is about 34,000 square feet. It's 4-story building. If I go back here, you will see what I'm talking about. It was built back in end of 1980s, so it's about 35 years old now. You can see it was meant to be an office space, and at that time, there was always a need for office spaces. However, similar, not very different from the situation we were talking about in the first application, the city made a lot of decisions starting 2000. And if you look at the zoning map here, where the hand is, you will see a lot of mismatch of a lot of zoning districts. Some of them are really incompatible. If you look at where the hand is, this is IL40. If you look at the side border in yellow, it's RMF4, which is multifamily. If you look to the right-hand side, there's an 80 unit kind of townhouse area that was actually built about 15 years or more. You will see down here, there's another zone, which is RA40. To the left-hand side, you have another IL40. So it's kind of, I would say, mix of different zones. Some of them are incompatible. So what happened is back in 2010, about 15 years ago now, the applicant or the owner of the property at that time applied for a zoning amendment from what it used to be. So this site used to be IL40. They applied to have it as RMF4 And at that time, the intent of the owner back then was to convert the whole building into apartments. However, that did not materialize. And fast forward 15 years from 2010, about 50% of the building is vacant. So what is the issue when you have an RMF4 and you have a use as an office space? Well, what it means is you are in a housing district. You are not supposed to have office spaces or medical offices, or meaning medical clinics. You are only allowed to continue what you have because you are non-conforming. So it's a big issue. That's why the new owners' hands are tied. Anything they do is very difficult. Anything they would like to do is very difficult. So when I was contacted by the lawyer for the applicant about changing the zoning back from what it is now, RMF4, to what it used to be, which is IL40. My position was, wait a minute, it would be bad planning if we do so. Why? Because your neighbor to the east is already 80 units. Yes, you have neighbors to the west that are industrial and to the south industrial. However, if this is meaning the site is a zone back to IL40, anyone can come in the future and use the site for a different use, which is IL40, which is going to be very incompatible with the 80 units to the east. When I looked at it, we came to the conclusion that the best choice will be RO4. RO4 allows for having housing as a special as a variance later on, but also it allows for offices. The need for the applicant is to have medical spaces in the future. I'm going to have a segue here saying, well, we need in the future, aside from the application, to look at our medical offices and make them permitted instead of special exceptions in many zones. However, this would be a discussion for the future. When we look at the FLUM, which is the future land use map in our POCD, here's the site we're talking about. It's designated as medium to high density. However, that designation in the FLUM allows also for office spaces. It's not exclusive for high density or medium density housing. It allows for offices as well. When we look at any zoning, similar to what we did in the first presentation, we need to know what it allows for. So the existing RMF4, it just allows for residential uses, and that's why the existing uses are non-conforming, which are the office spaces. As mentioned before, the site used to be IL40 until 2010. Why did we choose the new zone, which is the RO? Because it can be a transition between housing to the east and industrial uses to the west. When we look at the application here, the site is already zoned multifamily. So I'm going to go over only criteria 1 to 4. Is it suitable for the uses? Absolutely. Because the office spaces in the RO is very compatible with the IL40 to the north, and also more compatible with residential use. Also, we are not taking away from the multifamily designation because the RO allows for housing as well. Is there any impact about reducing multifamily? Absolutely not, because you still can have housing in the RO zone, but you will have to apply for a variance. I think with that, I come to the end of this very quick overview, but I would like to emphasize that the reason to choose RO zone is because it's more context sensitive. It guarantees and ensures that in the future, there will not be industrial uses on a site that is adjacent to multifamily. And it will, by doing that, we will reduce future land use conflicts between the use that we are looking at and the existing ones. I think that covers all the points I wanted to hit. I will be happy to elaborate more if you have any questions.
Thank you. Thank you, Director. Commission members, are there any questions of the Director at this time? Commission members? No questions. Thank you, Director. So now I will ask for, we don't have any letters on file here, right? So I'll now ask for the attorney wanting to present, wishing to speak in favor of this petition.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to share my screen if that's possible.
Absolutely it is.
Can everyone see this screen?
We got it. You're good. Thank you.
Great. Okay, so my name is Charles Lichtenauer. I'm an attorney with Chipman Mizuko Emerson, located at, believe it or not, 44 Old Ridgeberry Road, the subject parcel of this application. The proposed change, and I have to admit, much of Waleed's presentation will overlap with mine. I apologize for the duplicated efforts there, but I have prepared what I believe is a short presentation, so I hope you'll indulge me. The proposed change is from RMF4, multifamily residential, to RO, residential office. As Waleed noted, this is the subject building. This is where I am sitting right now. The current use is permitted in our zone in RMF4. You can see, as Waleed alluded to, apartment houses, garden apartment, row house, cemetery, church, congregate housing. Nowhere here, not in the special exception uses nor in the permitted uses, will you find office space or medical offices. So why are we doing this? What's the driver behind this zone change? As Waleed mentioned, we had historically been zoned IL40. This was prior to 2010 when the nature of the zone was industrial. But in 2010, as Waleed alluded to, the parcel to the east of ours was rezoned to RMF4, but so was ours, with the intention that both parcels be transferred or be changed in use to residential condominiums. But that never happened for this parcel. I wouldn't be sitting here otherwise. So the current status of the office building is really what's important here and why we're here with you tonight. And the primary reason is because we're in an RMF4 zone, we're limited in our ability to market our units. We're 50% occupied. So to give you an idea of the current occupancy of this building, every morning I drive into work, by 9:15, probably a third of the parking spaces are filled. I occupy my office, CME occupies the third floor. We are the only tenant on the third floor. We occupy 25% of the space of the third floor. There is a lot of tenantable space in this building. So as you can imagine, the landlord is in financial distress. He had been presented with an opportunity to lease space to what I would consider to be low impact medical providers. I'm thinking things like licensed clinical social workers and therapists, things of that nature. But of course, I will note that the zoning regulations lump in these kind of low impact medical providers with what would otherwise be high impact medical providers. So somebody with a doctor's office with machinery versus someone with an office such as mine that has a desk and a couple of computers. Presented with that opportunity, the landlord later understood that that was not a possibility because low impact medical providers, just like lawyers, while they may have small, low impact offices with not much equipment, nevertheless are not allowed in the RMF4 zone. So as Waleed said, the landlord cannot expand the existing use under the current zoning scheme. So we had multiple discussions with staff at City Hall, and we underwent a review of the history of the parcel and the area generally. So 25 years ago, as alluded to at the previous public hearing, the planned neighborhood development was adopted. And there's been significant transition on the west side from industrial toward residential, office, and medical uses. And as staff notes in the report, the area right now is a fragmented zoning landscape, which has yielded a patchwork of different uses. So what we're trying to do is formulate, with the collaboration of the planning department, a cohesive zoning plan for this area that will be compatible with future development and ease long-term planning objectives for the west side of Danbury. So there are a few core reasons why we chose RO with the help of Waleed. And the first of which was, yeah, we came to Waleed initially and said, hey, let's just change this back to IL40. We can get our office space back as a permitted use, and we'll apply for a special permit for the medical offices. And Waleed had a very good point. You guys are right next to a lot of residences. And while you may not be doing industrial work now, a future owner could come in, level the building, and create a manufacturing site that Briarwoods would most certainly not appreciate. So we didn't want to make that switch back to IL40, and with Waleed's help, determine that the RO zone is most appropriate. And what the RO zone does is provide a transition zone from the RMF4 and RMF10 zones, which are mostly to the east and a little bit north of the subject parcel, to ease that transition from residential on the east to the IL40 uses to the north and to the west. We think that this will permit offices and community services like medical services in the area and provide the landlord what it needs, which is a fighting chance at full tenancy. It will provide flexibility for future development of the parcel, as I alluded to. And as staff notes, the proposal is consistent with the POCD in that it promotes land use compatibility and environmental stewardship. So you'll see here, as compared to our RMF4 uses, we have permitted uses that include, actually, let's see, RO zone uses. We will be applying for 2 special permits. So whereas initially we said we'll get 1 special permit and 1 permitted use, we decided that to get city buy-in, which we felt was important, that we would take the RO and apply for 2 special permits to keep our office space and to allow that additional medical office use. So I would be remiss if I did not touch on 10I3 and Section 8.2 of the Connecticut General Statutes. Were consistent with the POCD as noted by the staff report. And I should note that I have pulled much of this directly from the staff report. I could not reinvent the wheel better myself. It will not adversely affect health, safety, and welfare of the general public. Interestingly, there will be comparable or lower density than if the building stayed RMF4. It's accessible by both Old Ridgebury Road and Briar Road. There's 1 entrance on Briar, and there are 2 entrances on Old Ridgebury Road. There's plenty of public sewer and water capacity. No grading, no outside work whatsoever is proposed. So no grading, no topographic alterations, no environmental impacts involved. And one thing that I would like to harp on just a moment, and something that was pointed out in the staff report. You're likely all familiar with spot zoning, and that's where there's an arbitrary designation for a use that the landowner wants, and it's really only beneficial to the landowner. Here, think about what we did. We came to planning, we came to staff, and we said, hey, we think IL40 works. What do you think? That's in our best interest. And we went through a deliberative process whereby RO turned out to be the zone that we're going to change to. And yes, we took the hit of having to take an additional special exception route. But what that demonstrates is that this was not arbitrary. This was a use developed in accordance with discussions with staff that is consistent with neighboring properties, that it promotes compatibility, serves as a buffer zone, and aligns with the development that the staff wants to see in this city on the west side. So I will just note the positive Planning Commission recommendation, noting that it's well suited for the area, the zone change that is. The zone change supports transitional development. It introduces flexibility for future site use, and it's consistent with the POCD. Finally, the 8.3b referral demonstrates, the zone change, I should say, demonstrates a benefit to the city, demonstrates no adverse impact to neighboring municipalities, and regional staff note their support. I did wait till the end of my presentation to show you visuals, so thank you, Waleed, for doing that in advance. This is the survey of the property that Waleed showed you earlier. It's east is up in this depiction. So the Briar Woods condominium is over where my cursor is, if you can see it. Next, the zoning map. As you can see, this is the RMF 10 zone I was discussing earlier, followed by the RMF 4 zone directly behind us, that is Briar Woods. And this highlighted parcel is what we would propose to rezone to provide a transition from the RMF 10, RMF 4, all the way over to the IL 40. No zoning application presentation is complete without a Google aerial of our site. So you can see Briar Woods, you can see some other industrial uses, and again, across the street. And with that, I will conclude.
Don't click out. Don't click out. Please
Okay.
go to, before you click out, I want you to just go to page, sort of cut you off, but I didn't want you to click out. Go to page 12 for me, please.
Yes, sir.
And I would like to ask the director regarding the spot zoning paragraph and the explanation. Are you on board with that?
So Chairman, actually that's from the staff reports that was submitted to you. So that's exactly the same. I wanted just in case, because a lot of folks get it wrong when we talk about spot zoning. It's not, say for example, it's not a name, like say you have a zone that has a different name from another zone. It's about the intent of the zone. The intent we have here is to have a buffer between incompatible uses, and the only zone we have in our zoning regulation is the RO zone. That's why we landed on it. If we had a mixed use zone that is actually applicable everywhere in the city, it would have been a good fit. But in absence of such a mixed use zone, the only zone that could actually ensure to us as a city that in the future there will be no conflicts between existing uses and future uses is the RO zone.
Thank you. Attorney Lichtenauer, thank you for that. I wanted to get the director on record again on that. It was part of the report, but it wasn't read in, and I just wanted him to get that on there. So I didn't want to cut you off. I just wanted to save you from not having to go back and open up your screen share.
Understood. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, director, as well. Okay, attorney, please finish up, or unless you already are.
I am all set, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Commission members, any questions of Attorney Lichtenauer? Commission members? I don't see any hands or hear any voices. Thank you. We may come back to you if we have any questions. Thank you for the presentation. Is there anyone else wishing to speak in favor of this petition?
Mr. Chairman?
Oh, I saw Councilman. Let me go to Gary, it says.
You do
Gary?
whatever you want.
No, I'll go to you in a minute, Councilman.
Yep.
He had his hand up. Gary, please state your name and address.
It's Gary Michael, 52 Deer Hill, Danbury. I own the property across the street from this property. I've owned it for over 30 years. It's in the IL 40 zone, and it's an 88,000 square foot light manufacturing facility. And I'm very sensitive to what's going on with the neighborhood and sensitive to the owner of the property across the street with a 50% vacancy. And I'd like to speak in favor of this. I think this is an ideal situation where the planner has done the work and the staff has done the work. And I think the commission should definitely approve this zone change request. As an abutting or across the street owner, I think it's appropriate for this particular area of town. And I hope that you have similar feelings toward this zone change. Thank you.
Attorney Michael, thank you. Commission members, any questions or comments to Attorney Michael? Thank you very much, Attorney Michael. Councilman Rotello.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For the record, Paul Rotello, 13 Linden Place, Danbury. Circling back to the previous petition and petitions that have been in front of this body for the last 25 years, my position is relatively clear on that I prefer commercial to stay commercial. And all things being equal, if this is going to save the building from a conversion to residential, I would favor the zone. I get it. We're playing musical zones. It was IL-40 and we want to go back to IL-40, but IL-40 doesn't really work anymore because we've done so many residential conversions in the interim. I mean, the original IL-40 in that area was probably done in the 1970s. I think my mom was on the committee when they did that. We don't need to go back to the whole history here, but there's a couple of concerns that I have. Well, I generally favor, and I believe I was on the zoning commission along with you, Mr. Chairman, when we instituted the very first RO zone back in maybe 2000 or 2001 on Myrie Brook.
That's correct.
Right. And there was a very specific, long-standing, unbelievably narrow site-specific reason why we did that and we don't need to get into that, but I mean, if you want to educate the other members, I'll leave that up to you. Director Al-Bakri is correct that it really is the only transitional zone that we have. And the whole idea about zoning is about transition. You have heavy industry, then light industry, then heavy commercial, light commercial, then retail and small retail, mom and pop, and then apartment buildings, and then cluster housing, single family homes, farmland, and infinitum. And then maybe on the far east of town, like on the Bethel border, you put a dump. That's how Danbury rolls. And that's essentially how this goes. In this particular instance, there really is no other solution except to leave it the way it is, and that doesn't appear to be a viable or equitable solution for the present state of affairs. I do have some concerns, and I think there is a reason why medical offices are considered to be something different than regular run-of-the-mill offices where you play with paper clips and shuffle a lot of papers. One of those issues that came up with the condominium association behind this building, and I again, for the record, I represent the 6th Ward and this area. One of the reasons that my running mate, partner in the 6th Ward, had to deal with was when MCCA proposed expanding. And that was shortly after that condominium association was built. And there was some concern from the association, from the residents, especially the residents with kids, that this might have some sort of deleterious effect on their residents and on the kids. The bus stop was right there and things like that. We managed to get all the parties together, and the MCCA expansion went forward as intended, and has been a good neighbor. But you do worry. Sometimes you worry about. I mean, proposals. There are certain types of, and I'm not going to get into them tonight. There are certain types of medical procedures and distribution, maybe it's methadone, things like that might raise eyebrows in a residential neighborhood. And if the purpose of this is to insulate the residential neighborhood from activities that they would protest, I just wanted to clarify that through you, as always, to the attorney, that if they do decide to go for a medical permit, that would require a special exception. I'm not clear on that. Is that what they're saying? If you want to put a dentist's office in there, if you want to put a therapist in there, if you want to put a methadone clinic in there, that they'd have to have a public hearing? Is that what we're saying? Because
yeah, I think that's the case, but we're going to let him.
Okay, so that's my main concern, Mr. Chairman.
Oh, good.
Otherwise, again, as a transitional zone, I think it makes more sense. I'm not sure that my partner agrees with me on this one, and we'll probably hear from him next. But for my money, I think it's probably better than going back to IL 40 or seeing the building fall apart and go into disrepair. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
So going back in time, Councilman, it was not only were me and you involved in the RO, but Commissioner Jowdy was there, and I think Councilman Chianese was there.
He was
So
there too.
And of course, Ms.
Joanne,
Reed was
you've
always there.
always been there.
Miss Joanne was here after the British burnt down Main Street.
I think Arnie was there too.
Arnie was there.
Yes.
Anyway, Attorney Lichtenauer, did you want to just address that quickly on that special exception?
Yes, absolutely. Both the legitimization of the office use that's currently non-conforming at the site and any addition of medical offices would both have to go through special exception review.
Including a public hearing?
That's correct.
Thank you.
got
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Absolutely, Councilman. Commissioner members, anything of Councilman Rotello? Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor of this petition? Anyone else wishing to speak in favor of this petition? Anyone else wishing to speak in favor of this petition? Anyone wishing to speak in opposition to this petition?
Mr. Chairman.
Councilman Chianese.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ben Chianese, 5 Briar Ridge Road here in Danbury. You know, it was pretty unique that we talk about, you know, in the previous application about the changes of IL 40 in this area. And you're right, I lived here for over 50 years. And I think, Chairman, you were probably on the zoning when it first started, when the fuse was lit, so to speak, back in on the Briar Ridge, back with the 830G days when they converted about 12 acres into residential housing from RA 40 to RA 8, which has created what we call Ridgeberry Hills. That's Lilac.
The zoning commission denied that. They took it.
They denied it. Yes, they took it to court. Yes,
and we lost.
And we lost. That was the first time it was in Danbury.
But
that lit the fuse. Correct, Mr. Chairman. You were right. It did deny it, and it was go to court, and we lost. And today they got beautiful houses there today, but they're all RA 8. And
right.
what happened there next was Briarwood. I mean, Briarwoods came along, RMF 4, and then Avalon came along. Those are all residential places. So everything that was IL 40 was slowly disappearing until we got to Old Ridgeberry Road, where they maintained their IL designation until recently, and I objected to it back in 2010 when this piece went to RMF 4 for the same reasons here. One of my biggest objection here is the only RO piece really is Myra Brook Road. That was the only time it was used. As you were right, Mr. Chairman, I was part of that with Councilman Rotello, and it was a buffer because a truck terminal was being built, and it was that buffer zone that was there. And it's still only single family house. 1 family, 2 family houses are permitted. But my question to the attorney here, I did see on one of his slides that it allows apartment buildings, but that's incorrect because I did look it up on the RL. Apartment buildings are not allowed in the RA 40 zone. And it was on one of the slides that were there. He said apartment buildings, but I'm going to ask the question. I didn't see it.
Let me have the director just raise his hand. He might want to jump on that now. Director, did you want to comment on that?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Council member, you are absolutely correct. It does not allow for apartment buildings. It allows for single and 2 family dwellings. However, and I'm saying just however, the applicant in the future, if they would like to have, I would say, convert some of the vacant spaces into apartments, they might want to go to the Board of Zoning Appeal and apply for a variance.
Right, and you can see that. Okay, yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. As you can see, you know, the RO zone is already changing for variances. The intent of the RO zone was a buffer, and variances was never really taken into consideration of this buffer. I know a few years back, Mr. Chairman, I think they there was an applicant trying to change the RO to 3-family housing. I think if you could remember that, maybe 5, 6 years ago, 7 years ago, on Maury Brook, someone tried to build multiple housing there. I think you denied it.
I don't
remember that.
I don't recall.
It was on the corner of Spruce Mountain and Maury Brook. There's that brown house that was there. I believe he tried to do something in the back there, tried to change some of the zone.
It might have been somebody trying to let RO creep onto their parcel, try to extend the RO district.
Something like of that nature.
We denied them up by the trailers.
Correct. Yep. And that leads me to my concern here is the creep. I disagree with the fact that this is with the planning director, that I think this is spot zoning. From my experience in dealing with zoning and planning and all this over the 25 years, I still think this is a spot zoning. But what this does is opens the door for, I call zoning creep. And I mentioned it before, the reason why we have mishmash of zones is because we allowed it to happen. We went from RA8 to RAM4. We keep changing our minds of what type of housing we want. And I think this application here will allow what I call a zone creep, because what's going to stop the project next to it for doing it? And all those, because they're almost exactly the same as this piece. It's an office building. Why not the lot next door have it and the lot next to that have it? So this could creep, and we've seen it throughout the city where you allow one use, especially on Germantown. When I was on zoning, we allowed a medical building be next door, all residential housing, and I think you may remember that, of course, from the plaza there, where we allowed the medical building to go in, and then all the other residents objected, and today it's all medical today, because we allowed that one use into the zone. So my concern is that this doesn't stop here. It's going to allow other owners to apply for the RO zone because it's in their best interest to do so. Why not? If you can allow the best of both worlds of having an office building and then have residential, if the office building doesn't succeed, you can make residential. And you just mentioned before, you can do a variance, and now you can have apartment buildings within the unit. It's no different than the bill that was vetoed by the governor, House Bill 5002, which as a right, you can do commercial into residential. This is no different than that. And the one that he did approve, which you may have to do, where if a building is 50% vacant or so many years and vacant for 2 years, that you have the right to convert into residential building. I think that's going to come in front of a zoning approval at some point in time. So there are changes coming down that's going to allow something to happen. So I don't think the RO zone is appropriate here. I think we're opening up a can of worms that you're going to have to deal with down the road with other applications. I've seen this neighborhood change. I'm very sensitive of this neighborhood. I want to see it succeed. I think the Parker Medical across the street is a beautiful building. It was there forever when it was Medallic Arts. It's actually a very good fit for that neighborhood. That's the type of industrial I would like to see continue on that street, because it's a good fit for that neighborhood. I don't think the RO zone is necessary, because you remember, you're doing this for one reason and one reason only: medical use. That's it. That's the only reason why you're doing this, to allow one use, a medical use, which doesn't exist today. So are you willing to change, I guess, disrupt the apple cart, so to speak, to allow other possible zone changes down the road? No one knows, no one has a crystal ball whether it's going to happen, but you allow it once, it's just going to creep down the road, because there's a reason why the RO zone was never applied anywhere else in the city, because it really doesn't apply anywhere else. It was a zone that was specific to the Maury Brook area. It was designed just for that reason. That's why there's only 1 or 2 family houses, because that's all that existed at the time, 1, 2 family houses. it wasn't really designed for where it's being proposed today. So those are my concerns today, Mr. Chairman, and I hope you take them under advisement.
Thank you, Councilman. Commission members, any questions of Councilman Chianese? Thank you, Councilman. I'm going to add the director. I see that the attorney wants to respond to that. Do you want to go first, or do you want me to let? I'll tell you what, Attorney Lichtenauer, why don't you go ahead, respond, and then we'll get the director involved.
Sure, I would love the benefit of Waleed's thoughts as well, but I just did want to push back on one point mentioned by Councilman Chianese. I think that his representation that this application is primarily for medical office use is incorrect. It has two legitimate effects. The first being the legitimization of an office use that's non-conforming. I would almost put that as number one. We can't expand this use without legitimizing it. And of course, you know, the councilman is correct. We do not have a crystal ball. We do not know what the economy is going to do with respect to this specific parcel. But what I can tell you is that if this is reverted to IL 40 against the recommendation of the Planning Commission, I don't see that, or if we were to go forward with an application for a change to an IL 40, I don't see that passing, specifically because of Briar Woods. Further, I think the effect of having a transition zone was understated by the councilman. I think that when you look at an office building that is otherwise a modern, functioning office building with amenities and a lot of attractive features, the goal here for the landlord is not to completely repurpose the use. It's not to kick me out and put apartments in. It's to be profitable. And so the other point that I should make is any future use that the councilman is concerned about does require us to come before a commission again. And so I would hope to take a step back and view this application for what it is, which is a zone change application that, yes, opens the door to additional uses, but I wouldn't use my crystal ball to figure out exactly how the landlord is going to apply the RO zone on this parcel. And I think that concludes my thoughts, and I'll yield to Ali. Thank you.
Thank you. Director, did you want to have any words on that?
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. So you, Mr. Chairman, to Councilor Chianese, I will beg to differ with a lot of what was mentioned for the following reasons. Number one, Councilor Chianese was talking about the RO zone being very specific. This does not exist anywhere in the zoning regulations. It might be based on a history he has, but it's not specified in our zoning regulation, meaning it's applicable anywhere if it's compatible. Second one, I would need to go back to explain the situation here. The use of office or residential is actually, office is already on the site, so we already have it. The zoning we have, which is RM4, allows for housing. So we are not introducing any new use for anybody to consider spot zoning. I'm not sure where it came from, but it's totally inaccurate in my professional view. So what we're trying to do is we have a building, most likely for 15 years, it was not used for adding any housing. Now it's 50% vacant for offices. The application will allow for office uses, including medical offices. However, as mentioned by the attorney, it will have to go to a special exception and be looked at by the Planning Commission. So for these reasons, this is actually a transition. It doesn't actually include any new use as we speak here. One thing that I also would like to point out as we speak, the reason why, professionally speaking, IL 40 will be a bad choice is because of the existing situation. We have 80 units on the east side, immediately adjacent to the building. If it's actually zoned to IL 40, who knows what might happen? The building might stay, but because it's a big site, it's 8 acres or so, there might be another use on the same site that can allow for incompatible future between the future use and the neighbor to the east. What we are looking at is to avoid future conflict. It's not about adding a use that doesn't exist. I hope that answers the question. I am happy to elaborate if needed.
Thank you. Councilman, you know that you only get one bite at the apple here, but if you got something really short and did you want to raise, I'll let you in here.
Just one question, Mr. Chairman. I forgot to ask the question before. If the RO does pass, does it make the building conforming? Because I knew in the past they rented out a parking lot there that was for rent. So my question would be is, if it does pass, will the building be conforming? Or will the parking lot still be a non-conforming use? Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Oh, thank you. Absolutely, Councilman. Attorney, did you want to address that? Good question, but I don't know.
Well, I don't know about the parking use, so I'd have to talk to my client about that. But I think that the overarching question is whether, by virtue of this zone change, we will have a legitimized office use, and the answer is no. We need a special permit to legitimize the office use.
Yeah, but once you get that special permit, you're gold.
Sure, right, for the office use, yes.
Yeah, absolutely. I think if I can, and I have no fact here behind, only rumor. I think some of the neighbors were upset because of the vacancy in the building and the lack of profitability. There were times they were renting out the parking lot to campers and things like that. I'm not sure. That's only what I heard. Excuse me. However, if they get approved tonight, they can fill up some of that space. And there isn't anybody here in the city that wants an existing building vacant for a million reasons I could list. Anything else, Attorney?
No, I was just going to reiterate your point, Mr. Chairman, that yes, any extraneous use of the parking lot would be diminished with increased occupancy.
Absolutely. Director, thank you, Attorney Lichtenauer. Director, do you want to close this out?
Thanks, Mr.
Oh, you know what? I don't know. I'm sorry. I don't think I have to ask again. Are anyone else wishing to speak in opposition to this petition? Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition to this petition? Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition to this petition? Opposition is closed. Director, you can sign us off here. What you got?
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Don't have much to add, but just one point here to clarify. I didn't know about the parking lot because this was not part of the submission. However, it could be the case if this application is approved and when they come back to apply to the Planning Commission for special exceptions, we can add conditions, including how you use the parking lot.
Great. Great. Thank you. Commission members, anything of the director? Okay, I think we've addressed this. We're not waiting for any documents or any exhibits. No more letters to be read in. Commission members, anybody's got the flavor of closing this thing out, making a motion to close the public hearing? Commissioner Botello. Oh, you're on mute. Unmute, please.
At this point, I'd like to put a request in to close the hearing.
Commission members, there's a motion to close the public hearing. Is there a second? Second, Commissioner Jowdy. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed? This public hearing is closed. Commissioner Botello.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to move this to old business under item number 2 for possible action tonight.
Commission members, there's a motion to move this to number 2 under old business for discussion of possible action. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Nejane. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Not hearing or seeing any opposition. This is going to be a number 2 under old business for discussion of possible action. Thank you. Commission members, we do not have any continuation of any public hearings. Commission members, we do have 2 items under old business for discussion of possible action. The first item is the petition of Blazius Enterprises, Sawmill Road, A15004 for change of zone from IL40 and PND to RMF6. The public hearing was opened on July 22nd, 2025, and it was closed on July 22nd, 2025. Let me get that file in front of me. Okay, commission members, that was the first petition that we heard tonight about the piece directly on the opposite side of this piece that we just closed out here. It was the piece going from the industrial and the PND to the RMF6. Commission members, Commissioner Botello.
Yes, Commissioner, I would like to make a motion to approve this application with the following statement. During this experiencing going on demand pressures for both affordable and market rate multifamily housing, according to regional planning data and real estate studies, Danbury has consistently struggled to maintain an adequate pipeline of newly constructed rental units relative to population and employment growth. The scarcity directly affects affordability and market competitiveness. Importantly, the average year of construction for multifamily housing stock in Danbury is between the late 1970s and the early 1980s. Much of the existing inventory is aging and increasingly less aligned with modern living standards and energy efficient benchmarks. This further emphasizes the need for context-sensitive, well-planned developments that meet contemporary housing demands. The supply and demand dynamics for housing is something that applies here. Basic supply and demand economics indicate that the addition of quality multifamily housing helps relieve upward pressure on rents across both market rate and affordable segments. Without meaningful additions to the supply side, Danbury risks continued escalation of housing costs, displacement pressures, and limited options for workforce housing. However, supply should be strategically located and designated to complement existing neighborhoods rather than disturb them. Neighborhood context: Crown Point and Riverton. The area surrounding Crown Point and Rivington residential complexes is characterized by predominantly residential fabric that emphasizes livability, quiet enjoyment, and consistency in land use patterns. These existing patterns potentially eroding residential property values, quality of life, and neighborhood cohesion. Light industrial uses are inherently more intensive and disruptive than residential uses in terms of traffic, noise, and visual impact. The justification for approval of this IL40 application is that it represents a unique opportunity to align zoning flexibility with modern planning principles, including context-sensitive development. The application demonstrates an approach that respects and integrates into the existing residential context rather than conflicting with it. Approval would allow for a transitory zone that mitigates conflicts between pure residential and broader industrial commercial uses. The support for affordable housing goals, while IL40 zoning traditionally does not focus on housing, this specific application leverages flexibility to advance the city's broader housing goals. It opens pathways for mixed use or complementary development that supports workforce housing near employment nodes, contributing to housing diversity and accessibility. Reduction of future land use conflicts is a result of proactivity. Addressing the site with a compatible approved application prevents piecemeal or speculative development that might otherwise conflict with the POCD, and it ensures future uses are aligned with community expectations and integrated infrastructure planning. Consistency with the plan of conservation development, this application advances several of the POCD objectives, including managed growth, housing diversity, economic balance, and neighborhood stability. It respects environmental considerations, transportation impacts, and existing utilities, and is a part of the framework. The conclusion in this is that this application is in the public interest, facilitates appropriate planned growth in accordance with the city goals, protects the health, safety, and welfare of the general public by preventing incompatible uses from encroaching or established neighborhoods, strengthens the city housing strategy without sacrificing community character. And for this, I believe it should be accepted and adopted.
Thank you. Commission members, for clarification, Commissioner Member Botello, out of that statement, I heard reasons for your motion for approval is densities consistent with the neighboring communities, surrounding by residential uses. It's not detrimental to the health, safety, and welfare. It addresses housing, and it is consistent with the plan of conservation development.
Yes.
There's a second to that motion to
Second.
approve with reasons. Second by Commissioner Nejang. Commission members, any discussion? Commission members, any discussion? A yes is yes, a no is no. Commissioner Botello,
Yes.
Commissioner James,
Yes.
Commissioner Jowdy,
Yes.
Commissioner Nazario,
Yes.
Commissioner Nejang,
Yes.
Commissioner O'Neill,
Yes.
Commissioner Bennett, Commissioner Cabrera. Commissioner Cabrera. Yep. Say it.
Yes.
There you go, on mic. And I will, no, there's no page 2 here. I will vote yes. So the vote is 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8-0. With Commissioner Bennett absent for this one. Got that, Ms. Reed? Okay. We do have a second petition.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Good luck.
You're welcome and good luck.
Second petition under old business for discussion possible action. It's 44 Old Ridgebury Road. Petition of MSM 44 Old Ridgebury Road LLC 44 Old Ridgebury Road C16006 for change of zone to RMF4 to RO. This public hearing was open on July 22nd, 2025, and it was closed on July 22nd, 2025. Commission members, it was a petition that we just heard. Commission members, what's your pleasure on this? God bless you. Commissioner Botello.
Yes. Does anyone else want to make a presentation before me, or okay, my hand's the only one up? Okay, guys. All right.
Go ahead. Yeah, you're good.
Okay. All right. Okay. I make a motion to approve this application for the following reasons. The proposed RO zoning district is well suited for the area, and this change would support transitional development and introduce needed flexibility for the future site issues. The proposed rezoning is consistent with the plan to develop conservation development objective of promoting land use compatibility and environmental stewardship. And this petition will not adversely affect the health, safety, and welfare of the general public.
Commission members, there's a motion to approve with reasons by Commissioner Botello. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner James. Commission members, any discussion? Any discussion? A yes is yes. A no is no. Commissioner Botello.
Yes.
Commissioner James.
Yes.
Commissioner Cabrera.
Yes.
Commissioner Jowdy.
Yes.
Commissioner Nazario.
Yes.
Commissioner Nejang.
Yes.
Commissioner O'Neill.
Yes.
Commissioner Bennett, one more time. Commissioner Bennett. And I will vote yes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8-0. Commissioner Bennett not voting. This petition is also approved. Good luck to you. Fill that space up.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Now you're gonna have to fight for people in the parking lot and the cafeteria line.
Yes, sir.
Good luck to you. Okay, what else do we have here? We don't have any new business. We don't have any correspondence. We don't have anything for reference only. I would like to ask confirmation from Ms. Reed that we will not have anything for August 12th, or do we still have time for something to come in?
No, well, basically it's too late. I'd have to
Too late.
advertise it and I don't have the time. We don't have enough
Beautiful.
time.
Commission members, please know we do not have an August 12th meeting.
Whoopee.
All right?
Yes.
Are there any other matters? Any other matters? Any other matters? All right. Who, motion to close, motion to adjourn by Commissioner Nazario. Second by Commissioner, who didn't go yet tonight? Second by Commissioner O'Neill. Any discussion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Let the record show we are adjourned at 10:22. Thank you, everyone. Appreciate it.
Enjoy,
you.
guys.
Enjoy
Thanks.
the next, enjoy your time off.